Well, I think just going through college and working hard, trying to play well, make sure the guys around me have a lot of respect for me. That's been pretty much it. And then, you know, I was raised by my parents. I think they did a great job, and hopefully that prepares me for wherever I end up.
And the potential is Baltimore. How about dealing with a lot of veterans on a team?
Well, that's something that you got to do as a rookie, especially as a quarterback. You got to go in and you got to earn their respect and just be one of the guys. So that's how I'm going to approach it, and hopefully it works out.
All right, good luck, Matt.
Thank you.
Chris?
All right, Susie, Matt, thank you very much. Well, the Miami Dolphins earned the right to pick first in this draft. The Dolphins won only one game last year. They were 1-15. Out goes the regime, and 1 year at head coach was Cam Cameron, and Bill Parcells was hired to be president. Jeff Ireland, the new GM, and the new coach is Tony Sperano. Their quarterback situation, well, who knows? John Beck, the youngster, BYU. Josh McCown. Look, when you're 1-15, you could use improvement all over. One of the faces of the franchise, Zach Thomas, gone. He's now Dallas. Will Jason Taylor get traded today? Even despite the fact that Taylor still played last year with the Dolphins and played well, they were last in rush defense. But when Bill Parcells takes over, they want to run the football. And hence, Jake Long, big tackle, Michigan, is their #1 pick. And Mel, we saw Joe Thomas go very high last year, was a standout with the Cleveland Browns. Jake Long, Joe, just where do they rank for the fans of just recent memory?
Different styles of players. When I think you look at Joe Thomas was a consummate pass blocker. Run blocking was good, not great. Jake Long, exactly the opposite. He is a dominant run blocker. You're talking about moving defenders off the line of scrimmage. You watch him here, number 77, 6'7", 315 pounds, did 37 reps at the combine. This kid, his punch move you talk about, the way he drives into that second level, sustains his block. This kid is an incredible run-blocking left tackle. You see him here in terms of the intensity. He sustains that, plays with a defensive mentality, plays with a mean streak. As I said, attacks that second level. No question. You talked about a kid underrated athletically. Now, he only played left tackle the last 2 years, was a right tackle. Pass blocking, he's a work in progress, admittedly. You go back to Vernon Gholston, had 1 sack he allowed. That was the only sack all year. And the thing that impressed me, 2 seasons at left tackle, little inexperience, this whole season, 13 games, never flagged for a penalty for him, but kid's technically sound, and he knows Bill Parcells is the next Jumbo Elliott, former Michigan Wolverine, turned New York Giant, with, by the way, a Super Bowl ring or 2.
And Coach Parcells looked at Jake Long as well as Chris Long and said, I need somebody on his interior lines to get after the quarterback or protect my quarterback, and they chose Jake Long because they're settling right now with Beck as their quarterback. And when you look at Matt Ryan, he's going to slide out of their favor, and he picked up a tackle that reminds him a lot of Jumbo Elliott or Flozone Adams who we had with in Dallas. Now they have a chance to have a building block, Steve.
Absolutely, a building block that's a metaphor for the Miami Dolphins. The structure coming from flat on their back. Now they've got their foundation. He is the metaphor for that first pick in the Bill Parcells Miami Dolphin era. He is the foundation of a great running game. He's more than just that pick. And look at the timing of when Bill Parcells signed him 4 days before. You know, a lot of times they'll sign the first round pick, but not that far into the dance. What is Bill Parcells saying? I'm going to be decisive, we're going to be confident, and that's who the Miami Dolphins are going to be. I think Jake Long speaks to all those things.
Well, the one thing that they give him, like you said, is he gives him some solid foundation on an offensive line, and he has started to rebuild in the offseason, Chris.
Well, Bill Parcells has a lot of draft picks here. He is trying to build a 53-man roster, and I think as you go through this day, we know that the name Jason Taylor is going to come up here. Certainly, if a team wants to close the gap to a championship, whether it be a Chargers, Jacksonville Jaguars, or what have you, maybe he goes here.
Hey, Keyshawn, you're one of the few that knows what it's like to be selected #1 overall in the draft. Jake Long, #1 in this year's draft with Susie right now.
Yeah, and he's had an opportunity to just relax and enjoy New York for a couple days. What does it represent to be #1 overall in the draft?
It's such a great honor, and it's such an elite group, and I'm excited to be a part of it. And you know, I'm going to go out and work hard and prove to everybody it was the right choice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chris?
I tell you what, that's what you want. An offensive lineman with just few words, right?
I speak with my feet, my hands, and I speak with people on their pancake on their back.
Yes, a pancake or 2. And so, we are done with our pregame, if you will, our on-the-clock Sports Center special. When we return, the 2008 draft will kick off.
Hello.
NFL Research Facility. 1-2008.
Initiate instant access.
Refresh player selection.
I need access to mainframe.
Access granted. Locating Glenn Dorsey, Jake Long, Darren McFadden, Matt Ryan.
We have visual confirmation.
Initiate 2008 NFL Draft presented by Coors Light.
You can see the scene at Radio City Music Hall. Normally, you sit and you watch a show at the holidays, maybe watch a movie, the Rockettes, but this, and the last weekend of April, this is football. And at Radio City Music Hall for 3/4 of a century, great entertainment. We bring you those who hope to entertain on the football field. 73 times now, the National Football League has had their annual selection meeting, commonly known as the NFL Draft. These are some of the names and faces you'll get to know. Matt Ryan, the personable quarterback from Boston College. Chris Long, the defensive lineman from Virginia, the son of Hall of Famer Howie Long. Will he make it long and long in the draft? We know. And Glenn Dorsey, many have him rated the highest, the defensive tackle from the champion LSU Bayou Bengals. He's here with us in New York. A half a dozen of the best players are here in New York as everybody gets set for the change of fortune of your favorite team and maybe not your favorite teams as we step up with Steve Young, the Hall of Famer, Keyshawn Johnson, the #1 pick from a few years ago, Chris Mortensen, Tid Man extraordinaire, and for the silver anniversary of the NFL Draft, it is Mel Kiper. Welcome. I'm Chris Berman, and that is the Commissioner of the National Football League, Roger Goodell. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, football fans. Welcome to the 2008 NFL Draft. Today and tomorrow, we welcome 252 great college football players to the National Football League. We appreciate your enthusiasm, and we hope you enjoy the new streamlined format of the draft. As you know, the first choice belongs to the Miami Dolphins. And I have that choice. With the first pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jake Long, Sr., Michigan.
It began once upon a time in February 1936 when Jay Berwanger was the first man selected. Not to quite the fanfare that we have here in New York. And I don't know if that jersey's going to fit Jake right there. I have my doubts.
Daryl, your Permians.
Well, that's right. And Jake Long will be the pancake blocker. He joins Hall of Famer Ron Yeri and Rams tackle Orlando Pace is the only tackle since we began the unified draft in '67 to be picked #1. We'll be back.
Coach, Coors Light is the world's most refreshing beer. Am I right?
Any doubt is there?
No.
Okay, we're on the same page at least on one thing.
Coach, Coors Light in bottles, cans, or kegs, do they all deliver tremendous refreshment?
They all do.
Coach, I like Coors Light poured from a tap. What's that called again?
Who knows what that's called? That's the draft, okay?
Frost Brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Coach, a beer that tastes as cold as the Rockies. Your thoughts?
There's a mountain that can be climbed.
See you at the top, buddy.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
Fact is, sports fans are switching to DirecTV because they have hands down the most sports in HD. What we need is a distraction. Wow! Look who's right on time. Anywhere between 10 and 2, it's Cable's Bikini Installers.
This is crazy.
I know! How has no one thought of this yet?
For sports and games you can't get with cable, call 1-800-DIRECTV.
After months of speculation, years of preparation, the fate of a franchise hangs on a 4x6 card. Be a part of the action. Get the NFL Draft Pad at NFLShop.com.
We are back in New York, and that's the scene in Miami. Not a lot of suspense there, but Bill Parcells, now the president, with us last year. He'll be with us in about 4 years, don't worry. But right now, he's president of the Miami Dolphins with Jeff Ireland, the general manager, Tony Sperano, and nuts and bolts, got a blue-collar type coach who coached under Parcells at Dallas, coached with the Chargers at the University of New Haven once upon a time, and that's now the brain trust. Now, we have Jake Long to Miami. Here's Chris Long, Mom Diane, Dad Howie, and the St. Louis Rams. They are the next ones on the clock. And they'll be opened up as the moment. Miami, St. Louis, Atlanta, Oakland, Kansas City, the Jets, 18-1 New England, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and New Orleans. That's our top 10. Do we have a lot of movement here at the top today, Mort?
Yes, we at least have a lot of talk. Certainly we know that the Rams have been fielding phone calls for that second pick, where they are poised to take Chris Long, the Virginia defensive end. They've taken calls from the New Orleans Saints. They have taken calls from the Baltimore Ravens. If it falls the way we think it's going to fall, the first 3 picks, with Chris Long going second, and then Matt Ryan of Boston College going third. Even at Oakland, you can see the New Orleans Saints maybe targeting Glenn Dorsey. I think from 4 to 10, you have teams that could move up or move back.
Well, it was not long ago that the St. Louis Rams were winning a Super Bowl. They were in a Super Bowl, and even if they weren't in it, they were a factor. They were sort of push the envelope offense, but things changed for the Rams. Last year, they took forever to win a game. They're 3-13. They're among the worst in points scored and points allowed. Isaac Bruce gone, the storied receiver for the Rams, now a member of the 49ers. Torrey Holt, still an outstanding receiver, openly clashing, which is not his style, with Coach Scott Linehan. With losing will make that happen. The offensive line, Orlando Pace and right on. It was just shuffleboard for the St. Louis Rams. And so, obviously, the Rams can use a lot here. I mean, they can go a lot of directions, and it just, they're back to kind of the Rams that, well, I hate to say, you might once remember with the
same old Rams. I think you're right. I think that if you pick a wide brush and wanted to define the Rams since they won the Super Bowl, they'd underachieved to their talent, maybe more than anyone in the league. What I think they needed is heart. That's easy to say. How do you get that? Well, Chris Long, the way he practices, the kind of person he is in the locker room, leadership, example, a lot to ask from a young kid, but Jerry Rice, the way he practiced, drug a whole generation of players for the 49ers. Chris Young, the way he practices and plays, there's no reason why he can't bring that element of heart, esoteric in its, you can't talk about how fast he runs or anything, but anything else, Keyshawn, he can bring that heart.
And they do. They need that toughness, and I think Chris Long brings that to this football team. If you think about the Rams when they were going on and trying to win Super Bowls, or even when they won the Super Bowl, they had toughness. Guys like Marshall Faulk and Grant Wistrom and Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt. Torrey Holt was not happy last year because he seen that in the locker room. That was something that he saw very well, Mel.
I think, Keyshawn, it got down to Glenn Dorsey and Chris Long from the St. Louis Rams, 2 kids who have great attitude and approach to the game of football. Both kids make everybody around them better. But I think what it got down to here was Adam Carricker, the first-round pick out of Nebraska last year. He's up to 315 pounds, played defensive tackle. That's his best position, not defensive end. You got to balance it out. Chris Long, certainly as a defensive end, relentless and instinctive. You talk about locating the football, he can do it as well as anybody. And I tell you, you talk about productivity, he can do that as well. And I think week in and week out, he's giving you the same effort. There's not an up and down situation. Glenn Dorsey as well. I think he's the best football player in this draft. Talk about late this season, he had a chop block, knee injury against Auburn, played through it. You talk about a kid, the will to win that he gave LSU, who won a national title. A lot of that came from the heart and the emotional exceptional play of a Glenn Dorsey, who I think is a spectacular football player, Boone.
Either one of them would look impressive in Rams colors, but Chris Long is with our Susie Colbert right now. Suze?
Yeah, it's a lifetime of work, and pretty much you'll know in about 3 minutes. How do you explain what's going on inside?
I mean, you just got to, stay calm if you can and realize that whatever happens is really for the best. Everything happens for a reason, so I'm just excited to play. Let's get this over with.
Can you ever remember wanting a phone to ring so bad?
Doing what?
For a phone to ring so
yeah,
bad?
my mom's phone just rang, and we all looked at the bat phone there, and it was just her. She had good job, Mom. It's called Vibrate.
Minute away. Mort.
It has been a very interesting week with the Rams. Yes, Glenn Dorsey was their top-rated player, but as they move closer to decision, it's a need-based draft. Chris Long and Dorsey were close on the board. There was a consensus that it was going to be Chris Long, but they even had a scenario where they discussed whether or not they should take Darren McFadden because Steven Jackson, their running back, his contract's up in a year, but they decided, hey, it's got to be Chris Long. They went golfing yesterday, Boomer, the whole organization basically, and came back last night.
Who won?
They came to the consensus. Nobody, if I know the guys who were playing golf in that course. They came back to that consensus, though, at the end of the night, that they were at peace with Chris Long as their guy.
Well, we'll find out. The pick is in. The second pick in this 2008 NFL Draft. Jake Long won to Miami. We knew that on Tuesday. Now we'll know about the Rams.
Okay, with the second pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the St. Louis Rams select Chris Long, defensive end, Virginia.
Well, as you pointed out on the pregame show, like the Manning family, I feel like that's almost NFL royalty in the same way Chris Long is that way. And Mel, he can play, I mean, a lot of different teams have him play outside 3-4, in the middle. I mean, how do you think he's best suited?
I think for St. Louis, Boom, as a down defensive end, I'll tell you what, going one-on-one is going to be something he didn't do at Virginia. He had to play through a lot of resistance in that 3-4 defense. You see him here, always double, triple team, relentless football player. You look at that instincts to locate the football. 79 tackles this past year, despite the fact that everybody knew who they had to block, who they had to handle. You look at that here, batting passes down. Did 9 of those interception as well on that play. Instinctive, locates the ball, great awareness, and the ability to talk about athletically. I think very underrated. This kid, I think, athletically, as good as most of the defensive ends that come into the NFL, has high picks the last 4 or 5 years. I like the productivity. 23 quarterback hurries this past year, 19 stops behind the line of scrimmage, and 14 sacks, despite the fact that everybody knew who they had to block, and he played in a defensive scheme that, hey, he never went one-on-one, Boom. At defensive end for the St. Louis Rams, he will have that opportunity.
Well, a bit of history here. Only the 5th time now that a player has been drafted who is the son of a Hall of Famer. Kellen Winslow, son of Kellen Winslow, of course, a few years back with the Browns. Not all necessarily first-round picks. Mike Shula, son of Don Shula, was drafted. Brian Griese, now with the Bucs, but drafted way back with Denver, son of Bob Griese. And Anthony Dorsett, son of Tony Dorsett. And now we have Chris Long, son of Howie Long. So 5 Hall of Famers now have seen their sons enter the National Football League. And you talk about pedigree, I feel pretty good about pedigree right here. And so now, remember, only 10 minutes a pick. The Atlanta Falcons now are on the clock. Now this will be the question of Matt Ryan. And does Matt Ryan go to Atlanta? It's been quite a year in Atlanta because at this time a year ago, no one knew what would happen with Michael Vick, Coach Bobby Petrino, and as a result, so many other of the named players that you thought you knew with the Atlanta Falcons, they're long gone. What a 12 months it's been.
After agreeing yesterday in court to enter a guilty plea in the dogfighting case, Michael Vick was suspended indefinitely without pay by NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell.
We have a chance next year, the way the NFL works, led by Bobby Petrino, to really get better this coming year.
The Atlanta Falcons coach Bobby Petrino will resign
I don't know if I feel used. I feel abused at the moment.
Falcons earlier in the day said they had an agreement in principle with Parcells. Parcells says no, and now negotiating with Miami.
The Falcons, it seems, may finally have their man. They've offered the job to Jaguars defensive coordinator Mike Smith.
I'm thrilled to be a part of this organization.
And so that's been a year that they would like to forget in Atlanta, and maybe they have a chance in a few minutes to start anew. Rachel Nichols is at Falcons headquarters. Rachel, what's the buzz there?
Well, Boomer, after all that, you won't be surprised that owner Arthur Blank has told me that he is looking at this draft to be a milestone in the history of the organization. And all the signals the Falcons have been sending out this morning is that they want Matt Ryan to lead that milestone day. Now, there is still a big pull in this building for Glenn Dorsey. They really like him. But when I spoke to GM Thomas Dimitroff a little while ago, he said that Ryan is certainly worth the #3 pick. They love the whiteboard session they had with this kid, and they really felt like he was obsessed with football in that Peyton Manning mode. So while there is still that pull for Glenn Dorsey, anytime you start saying the name Manning, well, that becomes a little hard to pass up. Boomer?
All right, Rachel, well, a picture may be worth 1,000 words, and we're just guessing right now, but should the Falcons just get this done, Steve, and say, look, with everything that's happened, let's turn the page, turn a whole other book over, and start with the face of the franchise.
Let me tell you, Boomer, if they don't do it right here, there's no other opportunity today or a year from today to get it done and get a franchise stamp at quarterback and fill the vacancy that is Michael Vick. And if you don't, Michael Vick gets out of prison in 18 months. And as he gets closer and closer, the community, other people will start to say, we need another chance at Michael Vick. And now the ownership and the whole organization is going to have to deal with whether they won't or will deal with Michael Vick. Today's the chance. If you don't want that to happen, fill the vacancy with the last chance you have right now, this second, in the next 8 minutes.
Is he ready to come in and play and start right now?
Well, I think he's ready to come in and start right now, but I think you can get a quarterback in this draft. I think you select some players. You have a bunch of players. As a first-time head coach in the National Football League, you need to win football games, and this quarterback alone can't win those football games. You have to build through the organization, but the Atlanta Falcons are picking, not me.
All I know is that they did have a great love for Glenn Dorsey. And their new coach, Mike Smith, comes from Jacksonville, where they had those twin tackles, John Henderson and Marcus Stroud. It would have fit perfectly in their defense. But they do have a lot of draft picks. They got 3 second-rounders. And they end the question mark at quarterback with the selection of Matt Ryan and a former Falcons assistant, Jeff Jagosinski, now the Boston College coach. And boy, did he put his stamp of approval on this guy for the Atlanta Falcons.
Sometimes there's issues that are bigger than even what's on the field. And this one is one of those situations where you can talk about players, their qualities, not Glenn Dorsey, but the truth is this is a bigger issue. And we'll see what happens in the next couple seconds.
Well, there are the smiles. We'll see if it's official. As the pick is in, the Falcons, 3rd selection, turnover literally a new leaf, we think. With Matt Ryan, the quarterback from Boston College, who just has what so many people say, Mel, is it.
Well, if you think about the Atlanta Falcons, boom, Matt Schaub gone to Houston. Michael Vick, you know the situation there. They need a face of the organization. Steve Young's been talking about it all week. I think very accurately, you talk about the Atlanta Falcons, the gamble that they could get the 2nd quarterback, or maybe even the 3rd, depending upon, say, what Baltimore does to jump back.
With the 3rd pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Matt Ryan, quarterback, Boston College.
Remind everyone, these are 21, 22-year-olds with their folks or with those closest to them, and they've been building toward this day. So as you watch it, when you see these players here, just think of the emotion that's going on in everybody. The player, the mom, the dad, the brother, the sister, the friend, and now the emotion in Atlanta. This young man that grew up outside of Philadelphia, went up to school in Boston, and now will be headed to learn how to speak with a slight southern drawl.
I think, boom, for Arthur Blank, turn the page. It's a new era now of Atlanta Falcon football with Matt Ryan at the helm. You talk about a kid who carried a football team that did not have great receivers, a great offensive line, or great running backs. Matt Ryan, you talk about his size, 6'4 3/4, about about 228 pounds. Arm strength may not be great, but it's very good. His accuracy is what I like. This kid, even when he was pressured, could throw strikes down the field. And remember, he played in the Steve Logan, Jeff Jagosinski offense this year. Put the ball up a lot more than he did in a conservative offense from his first 3 years at BC. That's why he had 19 picks. Coming from behind, putting the ball up a lot more. That's more interceptions you talk about this past year than his first 3 years overall. He had 18, 19 this year. But hey, Terry Bradshaw won Super Bowls MVPs even though he threw some picks. You got to take chances down the field. Managing a game's fine, but Matt Ryan, I think, knows, hey, when I have to be a gunslinger, I got to elevate my football team. I can do it. The Virginia Tech game in bad weather, down 10-0, looked like the game was over 5 minutes ago. He rallied the troops through a great strike, rolling left, threw back across the field, found Andre Callender running back for the touchdown. That was the signature play from Matt Ryan.
Change everything. Change everything. And look, it's a new coaching staff. They have a veteran, Chris Redmond, the Louisville. In this day and age, Stephen Morton, should he sit most of the year? Just start right away? Well,
I think from this moment on, every breathing second that the staff, the organization has to support this kid. You put your stake in the ground, which they've done right now. From now on, it's about supporting this kid and giving him a chance. And that might mean that he plays right away. He's tough. He can take the pressure. He can actually make enough plays as a young player that can move the ball down the field, even though he doesn't know the game as well, the pro game, I mean. He can do that and protect them, but they're going to have to do everything they can in this draft throughout the offseason, trying to get ready to support this kid to be successful.
Just a couple of minutes ago, he began to know the pro game. Matt Ryan with Susie Collins.
Well, you dream and you dream, and what's it like when the moment happens?
I'm just pumped to be a Falcon. It's unbelievable to be out here on the stage, and I'm just so excited that I'm going to be heading down to Atlanta to play for a great organization.
When I say Atlanta, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Winning games. That's the first thing we got to do, is go down there and try and win some games.
Congratulations, Matt.
Thank you.
A lot of people in Chestnut Hill, Massachusetts will be buying Falcons gear. For the first time since '75, the ACC has had 2 picks in the first 3. It's been a long time since Randy White and Ken Huff were drafted this high. When we return, the Oakland Raiders.
Coors Light. It's a frost-brewed beer. It's a beer brewed down as cold as 34 degrees. Aged cold, filtered cold, put into bottles, cans, and kegs. Cold. Why? We know you like cold beer. So ask for a beer with a taste as cold as the Rockies. Because refreshment isn't everything. It's the only thing. Frost-brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
Tonight, the dominating Celtics look to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks, followed by a pivotal Game 4 as the Rockets try to level their series with the Jazz. The NBA playoffs continue tonight on ESPN.
SignCompaniesOnline.com. Just enter in a city or zip code and instantly connect with local sign companies who specialize in banners, vehicle graphics, and many other types of signs. For a new image or just updating your look, it's all on SignCompaniesOnline.com.
The Lenovo ThinkPad has a magnesium alloy roll cage, making it one of the very strongest notebooks out there. We just wanted to remind you, we have brains, too. Protect your ideas. Lenovo ThinkPad, powered by Intel Centrino with vPro, ultra durability and performance.
Switch your old dandruff shampoo to one that's clearly different. New Selsun Blue Naturals. Clearly stops flakes and itch.
So soft.
Clearly gentle with vitamins and botanicals. New Selsun Blue Naturals.
The difference is clear.
NFL Research Facility, 1-2008.
Initiate instant access.
Refresh player selection.
I need access to mainframe.
Access granted. Locating Glenn Dorsey, Jake Long, Darren McFadden, Matt Ryan.
We have visual confirmation.
Welcome back to the 2008 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Well, the green room is 3 for 3 thus far. Will it be Glenn Dorsey with this Oakland Raiders selection? Will it be Darren McFadden, running back, Arkansas? The Jet fans are hoping, and their team picks 2 from now, that McFadden will still be in the green room without a hat on. They would like to see him wear green and white. But the Oakland Raiders, a team that you can't say at 4-12, had a great year, but the year before they were 2-14, so maybe, just maybe, and remember, it's the only time we're going to hear from them until later tomorrow. They have no 2, they have no 3. If they want to make a big-time impact, does Al Davis remember when he drafted Marcus Allen in the first round once upon a time? How'd that work out? Is this where they're headed, Mort?
There's no question, unless there's some colossal trade that blows Al Davis away. Remember, Al Davis likes to collect trophies. 2-time Doak Walker Award winner is Darren McFadden. 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, runner-up, Darren McFadden. And Lane Kiffin, the head coach of the Raiders, was at USC as an offensive coordinator, and they utilized Reggie Bush in so many different ways. Darren McFadden is a big Reggie Bush. They've spent a lot of money on defense, and this guy is a perfect fit for what they want to do and take some pressure off a rookie quarterback, Jamarcus Russell.
Wait a minute, big Reggie Bush, but isn't he closer to Adrian Peterson?
Well, you know, that lower body strength may not be, yeah, I mean, in terms of impact on the game, there's no question he can have an impact on the game, but he can go catch the ball. He's a versatile player, and that versatility, but he's 6'2", 215. They can do a bunch with Darren McFadden, and he can hit the home run with one swing, yes.
Well, look, we all found out what Adrian Peterson did for the Vikings, made them now into a team that everybody wants to see and maybe get in there. And so perhaps the Raiders figure, hey, what better way back? And you know that rookie running backs, that's one of the positions that as a rookie you can have a huge impact seeing Peterson. Al knows that.
No question. He's got his bookend. You know, everyone's like those triplets. Well, he's got 2 of the triplets with Jamarcus Russell last year, Darren McFadden this year. I like Darren McFadden going to the Raiders. He's going to be well coached by Tom Rathman. He's going to have a great system. He seems like a kid that really wants to play great football. If there's issues with him, I think he can leave them behind in Arkansas. He's more than a Southwest flight away in Oakland. He's going to be able to put it. You talk about a stake in the ground. He can put a stake in the ground. His sister's going to go with him to Oakland, a great city for him. I think that Darren McFadden fits very nicely with the Oakland Raiders.
And when you said just the Reggie Bush factor, when I evaluated him, Chris, he looks exactly like Reggie Bush.
There it is.
With the 4th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Oakland Raiders select Darren McFadden, running back, Arkansas.
And what's interesting is you come in with all your questions in this, and Matt Ryan, if he doesn't go, we're going to trade, and Darren McFadden, if he doesn't know, we're going to trade. Sometimes you sit there, you play your hand, Ryan 3, McFadden 4.
Well, I'm sure, boom, the defensive players on the board were tempting, but keep in mind, they spent a lot of money on the defensive side of the ball, trading for D'Angelo Hall, re-signing Tommy Kelly. You look at Darren McFadden's versatility, and we're talking about at Arkansas, what he meant for that wild hog offense, playing quarterback, doing a lot of things with Felix Jones. You talk about speed, runs a 4.340 at 6'1 1/4, and a rock-solid 215 pounds. An explosive kid. Talk about going 40 yards in the blink of an eye. Just give him a crack in the line. He can do it. So I think when you look at a kid like Darren McFadden, can he catch the football? Yes, here he's running out of the quarterback position in that wild hog package at Arkansas. Catches the ball, he'll block for you. The thing that I really like, the LSU game the last 2 years against that vaunted LSU defense, that talent-laden LSU defense, 388 yards the last 2 years. That's a 7.3-yard average, 5 touchdowns. I talk about a kid who did it against the best in college football in the SEC. He did it. And I think the word game breaker, the word explosive, and I think you put Justin Fargas, you got Michael Bush coming off the injury, now a loaded running back position to help out Jamarcus Russell.
Look, 4,500 yards, almost 6 yards a carry, 41 touchdowns. Hello. He's a Raider. Sequestered in the corner here at Radio City Music Hall are Mike Tirico, along with Kirk Herbstreit and Ron Jaworski. Fellas, McFadden, as we suggested yesterday, the best evaluator in the NFL told me, Mike, The stuff surrounding McFadden is just stuff. Don't worry about it.
And some of that stuff is, we reported about 45 minutes ago, a couple of brothers who were in gangs, a couple of other brothers of the 12 children in bar fights. McFadden got in to help out the mom, a recovering crack addict, clean, she says, for 6 years. Still going to be a big part of the scene. You may have heard those details before. The football player and the person, you think in Oakland a good fit?
Well, I don't know if it's a good fit. Jaws could tell us that, but I know what kind of kid he is, and he's an outstanding football player. Think about playing in the SEC. By far, the greatest defenses in college football every year. The fastest defenses are in the SEC. 3 years, over 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns in that conference, plus his versatility. If the league enjoyed Adrian Peterson this year, wait till they get a look at this young man. If he has this, Jaws, if he has this supporting cast around him, you tell me, does he fit in and does he have some things to work with there?
Yes, Kirk. The happiest man right now in Oakland is Jamarcus Russell. Because a quarterback, particularly a young quarterback in that embryonic development stage, as is Jamarcus Russell, when he can do this, when he can reach that hand out there and make that play fake, oh, I'll tell you, it makes the pass game that much better. I just have one concern about Darren McFadden. His agility going sideways, that mobile lateral movement, he just doesn't show that. Speed, but not that agility.
Kansas City's on the clock. They're sitting at the 5 spot. Does somebody want to come up and get Glenn Dorsey? He and Vernon Gholston of Ohio State wait in the green room as the draft continues with the Chiefs on the clock.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
All new prototypes leave everything behind.
We started this thing. It's us versus them. The game has changed. It all starts today. You are the new prototypes. We are Under Armour. The future is ours!
This Monday night, 2 high-powered offenses in a battle of the undefeated. The showdown, Dallas-Philly. Watch Russell Athletic ESPN Arena Football Monday at 8 as the Desperados battle the soul on ESPN2.
ESPN's coverage of the 2008 NFL Draft is presented by Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer, and in part by Hummer, like nothing else, and Under Armour. Stop training in your running shoes. On May 3rd, Under Armour introduces performance training footwear. Reserve yours today.
Yeah, Saints are working hard. The Kansas City Chiefs are certainly in the rebuilding mode. They were in first for a little bit in the AFC West, but they lost their last 9. They have 12 picks, including 2 in the first round. Will the first one be Glenn Dorsey, defensive tackle, LSU? Wendy Nix is up to date in Kansas City. Wendy, you can talk to me.
Boomer, there's a lot to say, certainly a lot to say in the war room here in Kansas City. We talked earlier about this being a fluid situation. It is still literally a debate, a rapid-fire discussion inside that war room. Take Dorsey, a player many believe, this team believes, one of the best players in the draft, or trade down. An offer on the table right now from the New Orleans Saints for 2 additional draft picks. Herm Edwards said as little as half hour ago he wants more picks. Even so, now that the reality is there, that Glenn Dorsey is on that board, he is a very, very good player and difficult for this Chiefs team to walk away from. They're going to take every single minute. They believe, though, they can't lose either way. Boomer?
All right, Wendy, thank you very much. And Glenn Dorsey, and Mel, you can attest to it, but Mort, we'll start with you. Many of the teams had him the top-rated player on their board, right?
No question about it. And this a great pick for the Chiefs if they make this. And I know the Saints have been desperately trying to trade up. A player like this, at this point, too good to pass up.
You know, except for the Chargers, you know, the AFC West now, Denver, we don't know. And obviously, Kansas City and Oakland are rebuilding. I mean, obviously, we know who the top team is, but in this division, room to move.
Well, think about this. You just got LaDainian, you have LaDainian Tomlinson in your division, and here you have Darren McFadden now with the Raiders. Better get somebody to stop those guys.
Well, then you got, Glenn, what he brings also, as we talked about with Chris, that heart, that practice mentality, that leadership. You know, the Chiefs are kind of floundering, so these first picks are really mattering.
Kansas City Chiefs select Glenn Dorsey, defensive tackle, LSU.
Hey, they had a decent defense last year, so when you're not a very good team, try to get strong on one side of the ball.
And it's a young football team, so picking him at this position will help them out significantly. Like you said, it gives them that Chris Long thing, Chris.
Well, Glenn Dorsey was a guy, Kirk Herbstreit, you got to know very well as LSU won a national crown last year, and Dorsey can just make it happen no matter how many guys are on him in the interior, right?
Well, boom, there's no doubt about it. This guy is the total package. Just talking to Bo Pelini, his defensive coordinator, earlier this morning about him. He thinks he's the best defensive lineman he's ever seen. Obviously, he has everything you're looking for with the power up front. Looking at a guy that's 6'1", 300 pounds, the unique combination of power, but also the ability and the quickness to penetrate, disrupt the running game, and also put pressure on a quarterback. I think he's the best defensive tackle that I've seen in the last 13 years of watching the elite level of college football because of his ability to control the line of scrimmage with his size and use his quickness to get up, as I said, into the backfield. This guy is a major disruptor, and as good as I think we've seen it again. Another guy coming out of the SEC with the great speed.
I think you look at it, and I think Herbie touched on it, when you look at a guy like Glenn Dorsey, I think he's the best football player in this draft. He'll be powerful and explosive. And for Kansas City, they need offensive line help. They need defensive end help. But here's a defensive tackle. You got Alfonso Boone, Ron Edwards, and Tank Tyler. Serviceable, okay players. That's it. This kid is a difference maker, a penetrator, and obviously a lot of picks. They have 17 from Minnesota. A lot of picks in this draft for Carl Peterson. They get quality players on both sides of the ball into this rebuilding process for the Kansas City Chiefs.
5 for 5 in the green room. Glenn Dorsey goes to the Chiefs with our Susie Colbert. Suze?
What was the feeling when the phone rang?
Oh, I just started shaking. I was hoping it was something positive. We've been sitting back there, and I'm just excited to be a Chief,
What did the voice on the other end say? Who was it?
It was the general manager. He called me. He told me how would I like to be a Chief. He put me on the phone with the head coach, and they just asked me how was I feeling and how can I help their defense. And I said, yes, sir, I surely can.
And how are you feeling?
I'm feeling wonderful. I'm happy as all outdoors.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Glenn Dorsey drafted by this. Can you tell who's up next? For the Jet fans who are ready, they booed Jake Long only because he was drafted by the Dolphins. So they came ready to yell and holler. It's the Jets now, the Patriots next. The volume will be up the next 20 minutes here in New York. We'll be back.
He took my last cold Coors Light.
That's when you're going to have a psychological letdown.
Coach, what do you think of this new vented wide-mouth can?
I'm very pleased that anything that might come out of it would be a positive thing.
Hey, Coach, in one word, what makes the vented can special?
Flow, F-L-O-W.
The new vented wide-mouth can. It lets in air for a smooth, refreshing pour.
Coach, it says here that too much hairspray makes your follicles dry and brittle.
Well, that would be the big concern that I would have.
Yeah, well, it really should. Okay.
ESPN Sunday Night Baseball, a Motor City slugfest. Vlad Guerrero powers the AL West favorite Angels into Detroit to meet Miguel Cabrera and the potent Tigers. Sunday Night Baseball, Angels-Tigers, 8 Eastern on ESPN.
I really got sick and tired of every day when I met somebody. They would look at the top of my head, and then they'd look me in the face.
I think my hair looks better now than it did when I was in my 20s.
Hey, some people are beautiful bald, but it wasn't for me.
I feel great about myself now. I look the way I think I'm supposed to look.
It was like a dream come true for me because I wanted my own hair back.
The Bosley treatment's absolutely exceeded my expectations, no question about it.
This is all me, so I'm thrilled.
I finally enjoy getting a haircut.
Now that I see the results, I wish I would have done it 4 or 5 years sooner.
I'm really excited about having my hair back.
When it comes to going bald, you now have a choice. To find out more about this clinically proven permanent hair loss solution from Bosley, call to receive this free guidebook, medical report, and DVD.
This is the only permanent solution to hair loss.
Choose to do something about your hair loss.
Call 1-800-573-3660. That's 1-800-573-3660. Or go online to bosley.com today.
There's Keith Rivers, the fine linebacker from USC. Keith, he's at home waiting. Then, also at home, our cameras are looking at Branden Albert, a young man that can play either guard, either tackle. Will he get tabbed by the Jets or the Patriots or the Ravens right behind that? And then Vernon Gholston here in the green room, here in New York, when the Jets have 4 minutes left on the clock. The New York Jets in year one under Eric Mangini were a playoff team, surprising everyone. In year two, they were 4-12. It was a surprise the other way. The Jets have opened up the coffers and have signed Calvin Pace, the big signing. Alan Faneca to play on the left side of that line. Damian Woody, big Chris Jenkins, you remember him with Carolina, not to mention Pro Bowl fullback Tony Richardson and Bubba Franks to help an offense that had more turnovers than touchdowns. The question is that Chad Pennington or the youngster Kellen Clemens will be the quarterback, but the question is now for the New York Jets, what do they do now? Do they, look, they've spent a lot of money building up their line. They would have been interested in McFadden. Now, is there a back they should go with here, or should they just go pass rusher, which would be Gholston?
Well, they can finish the job on defense. You talk about how do you beat New England, you're going to have to Tom Brady. They added Calvin Pace, the Jets did, in free agency. Now, if you put Vernon Gholston in that 3-4 defense on the other side, all of a sudden you got yourself a heck of a tandem of pass rushers. Keep in mind, Vernon Gholston began his college career at Ohio State as a linebacker, played on his feet this year at Ohio State, as well as a down defensive end spot. As a sophomore, bull rush with Jake Long, got a sack this year in the game. Everybody talks about the fact he's an underachiever, he's not productive. Yeah, game in and game out, yeah, the intensity wavers back and forth. But I think when you look at Chris Long, where everybody raves about his productivity, Vernon Gholston had as many tackles for loss and more sacks the last 2 years than Chris Long did.
Well, remember, they've made some changes. They just the other day traded Duane Robertson off to Denver. Jonathan Vilma, their linebacker, is now a Saint. Victor Hobson, their linebacker, is now a member of the New England Patriots. But at the same point, so quick revamp of the Jets. At Kirk Herbstreit, you ought to know Gholston a little bit. I think you guys are Buckeyes.
Yeah, a little bit, Bum. Here's a guy that I think took advantage of a big stage against Michigan. He had 5 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, and a sack against Jake Long. And I think that game put him in a position to say, I'm ready to come out and become an NFL player. Without that game, he's probably coming back to college next year. But he is a speed rush guy off the edge, Jaws. That's his strength, and that's what he'll bring to whoever he goes to.
That, Kirk, but what bothers me, he had a difficult time in space, shedding blocks, making plays. He wasn't a guy, when I look at the tape, that was consistently running at a very high motor. I think there's some question marks in this pick. No question he can rush the passer, but is he a complete football player? I'm not sure.
I think his football IQ is still growing. Here's a guy that didn't even come out for high school football until his sophomore year, so he's still learning the game and still realizing his potential to be an every down player.
The question, Mort, is, you know, there were times when did Gholston have the motor like a Chris Long? There's some plays, where was he?
You know, actually, it's funny. You always hear that about a lot of defensive linemen.
Is that fair?
Well, I don't think it is, because you hear that about defensive linemen every year, and they come to this league, and then they're really good players. You know, this guy, when I talked to teams, said this guy didn't start playing football until he was a sophomore in high school. He's still learning how to play the game. Now, he's got a physique. He takes off his shirt. He looks like Tarzan. They would like him to play like Tarzan every play, but generally, they believe once he gets cranked up, gets the coaching, he can be a dynamic player in this league.
Let's be honest, though, of the guys that we've seen drafted so far, all huge leadership, hard work. Now, all of a sudden, the first time we talk about Vernon Gholston, we say, take some plays off. Maybe he's a front runner off the edge. That's maybe the way that you talk about an edge rusher. But let's be honest, this is the first time we've talked about anybody in this draft that is not an absolute leader in the locker room.
You know what? If this is Vernon Gholston, we've just set a record. We've had 6 guys in the green room, and there have been people sitting there for 4, 5, 6 hours waiting to go. It would be 45 minutes, and we've cleaned the place out. Let's see if Gholston completes the job. 6 for 6 in the green room. Here's the commissioner.
Okay, Jet fans, with the 6th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Vernon Gholston, defensive end, Ohio State.
And the Jets have just won the Super Bowl.
You know what, Chris? This is a great pick for them. The simple fact that they're picking right above New England. The New England Patriots coveted this linebacker as well.
Yes.
So you got your first cat and mouse game in the draft.
They knew it was coming. Jets followed by Patriots, and now Vernon Gholston. Bill, how do you project him in the league running on the outside?
As an outside linebacker, the 3-4, you talk about a kid whose strength, I think, was something that got everybody's attention. 265 pounds. See a kid here, getting after the quarterback, which he had 14 sacks this year. 37 reps at the combine. Tremendous strength. Talk about a kid who has real good quickness. He can close very effectively around a 4.65 at 265 pounds. You see him here. He beat the offensive tackle out of his stance on numerous occasions the last couple of years for Ohio State. As I said, originally a linebacker. Now, when you talk about, hey, still learning the game, instinctively, not necessarily what you want right now. Locating the ball, not his specialty, okay? Not nearly as productive as he should have been. 37 tackles, about half, 15 and a half are behind the line of scrimmage. So he can be finessed out of plays, not always as productive against the run as you would like. But in a 3-4 defense, where you pin your ears back and you get after that quarterback, I think that's where he will be able to maximize his ability coming into the NFL, Boom.
All right, listen. Quick look at the Jets schedule. Week 1 could be Vernon Gholston against Jake Long as they play the Dolphins. Week 2, Vernon Gholston trying to sack Tom Brady. They play the Patriots in Week 2. The Patriots are on the clock. And guess what? The Jet fans cheered. Now they're cheering the next pick of the 18-1 Patriots. We'll see what Coach Belichick and company have up to bring.
All new prototypes leave everything behind.
We started this thing. It's us versus them. The game has changed. It all starts today. You are the new prototypes. We are Under Armour. The future is ours!
We have a code blue. Code what?
Code blue? Code blue. Code blue.
Divide by the total sales, you'll see how we came up with the 10%.
Code blue?
Code blue. The cold activated bottle from Coors Light. The mountains on the label turn blue when your beer is as cold as the Rockies.
Oh, what?
For us brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. If you're not willing to fight for something, you can't change anything. Yeah, I can fly. A man with a dozen of these could rule the world. I'm not going to let that happen.
You're going to kill yourself.
No shoot! No shoot!
You owe me a plane, you know that, right?
Technically, he hit me.
Iron Man, rated PG-13.
Welcome back to the 2008 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Welcome back to New York, where the Jets have made their selection of Vernon Gholston, perhaps the player the Patriots were looking at. Pats knew that certainly was a possibility, and now the New England Patriots, 3 minutes away from football immortality and a 19-0 mark, lost in the Super Bowl. They were 18-1, and here they are yet picking 7th because they made a trade last year with the 49ers, who this is their slot. The pick that the Jets lost, the Patriots lost, because of being found guilty of taping defensive signals in Week 1 against the Jets, the coach being fined $500,000, the team being fined $250,000. The pick that they lost, that would be number 31. This is the Niners pick in a trade last year involving a Joe Staley pick. Asante Samuel, who was an Eagle. Eugene Wilson is gone. Randall Gay is gone. You see that their Junior Seau, will he be back? Their secondary is new. And now, what do the Patriots do? Off of 18-1, Michael Smith with some news on New England. Michael.
Well, the Patriots have a couple of obvious needs, Boomer, and that's that inside linebacker and cornerback in light of the losses that you just mentioned. They would love to trade down from this spot, maybe address the linebacker situation later with a Keith Rivers or a Jerod Mayo. But if they cannot exact the trade and they have to stay here, I think they'll go corner. And a guy that I'm hearing that they really like is Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie out of Tennessee State University, a guy that's been a riser this offseason, all kinds of athletic skills and great ball skills. I think they address corner here at 7, but they could move out.
Well, that would make sense. The Patriots are obviously entertaining all the calls, although the Ryan McFadden options are long gone.
Well, exactly. And this is the type of spot right here with Sedrick Ellis, the defensive tackle from USC, sitting here, where now the Saints are saying, hey, maybe we got to call the Patriots and get up there to get that guy, Sedrick Ellis. And yes, Keith Rivers of USC, the linebacker's there. There is Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, as Michael Smith just mentioned, and Leodis McKelvin, the cornerback from Troy. But I think right now they're talking to teams about this particular spot.
Look, everybody remembers what happened in the Super Bowl. It was one game the team scored 589 points. The Patriots' goal overall in this draft is to get younger on defense. I'm not saying necessarily right here in the next 2.5 minutes. And by the way, you that have voted online say they should trade the pick. Of course, you got to have somebody else that makes a decent offer instead of just trading it. Easier said than done. Bill Belichick, Scott Pioli, they're so good at making moves. And there it is. There's a trade. They're so good at this. And it's the Saints. Well, who love their #1 corner, don't they?
The Saints, we've been talking about this all week. Sedrick Ellis, defensive tackle from USC. The Saints' new defensive line coach is a guy named Ed Orgeron. He was at USC as their defensive line coach, head recruiter. He recruited Sedrick Ellis to USC. They have been trying to trade up to get Dorsey, the LSU defensive tackle. He's gone. It's got to be Sedrick Ellis. They really needed to shore up that front 7 and that defensive line interior.
Well, so that as soon as fans voted, trade, okay, we'll trade. It was that easy.
Well, it's good for the look. The Patriots, what they can't do is they're the dominant team in the league right now. And a lot of times dominance gets hubris, and you end up, we don't have a lot of needs. They have needs, and they need to address them, so they'll get the extra picks. For New Orleans, though, they cannot, with that explosive offense, which I think they will be again next year, they have got to play some defense, to Mort's point.
Well, the Patriots can get corners at number 10. Corners.
Oh, God, yes.
10, right? No?
They can get a corner. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is the guy they like. They obviously can get him at 10. I think you look at the New Orleans Saints. Remember several years ago, way back, they traded up for Jonathan Sullivan out of Georgia. They passed on Marcus Trufant, cornerback out of Washington State. Sullivan was a major bust. They've been looking at defensive tackles since that point, trying to solidify that position. Cornerback's been a problem as well for the Saints. They added some linebackers via the last couple of months in free agency and trades. I think you look at Sedrick Ellis, only a shade below Glenn Dorsey. So here you're talking about pick number 7, getting a kid who's arguably the 2nd or 3rd best player in this draft.
They wouldn't look at McKelvin. Well, we'll see. I don't know. He does know, however.
The New England Patriots traded the 7th pick to the New Orleans Saints. With the 7th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the New Orleans Saints select Sedrick Ellis, defensive tackle, USC.
Well, there you go, Keyshawn. You're on the board. Trojan. So the Saints, it'd be interesting to see if they march again on offense, but they obviously have a defense that they have to address. And Sedrick Ellis, a force, Mel.
He is a force. You talk about a kid who's tough. You talk about a kid who's quick. Quickest hands win on the interior, and he learned that at an early age. This kid, you talk about 6'1", 308 pounds. That leverage advantage is immediate. Very difficult for centers and guards. You see strength. Talk about 34 reps at the combine. Kid who's quick out of the blocks as well. And I'll tell you what, I watched Glenn Dorsey, and I raved about Glenn Dorsey all year. For whatever reason, Sedrick Ellis didn't get nearly the national publicity that Glenn Dorsey did. yet he was equally as effective. And I think you look at what he was able to do in terms of the football field, week in and week out, here getting it done, blocking a field goal on special teams. Tell you what, when you look at Sedrick Ellis moving forward for the New Orleans Saints, a defensive tackle who should have an impact similar to Dorsey, and I think can be a Pro Bowl caliber player. Now we have to see what they gave up to acquire this pick, but I gotta, when you talk about getting rave reviews early on, the Saints have been aggressive. They talked about trying to get up there. They were able to pull it off.
Well, we just had a trade him where we don't even have the tails of that one yet with the Saints and the Patriots. That's just 3 spots, 7 for 10. But Baltimore now, of course, in the Matt Ryan sweepstakes. Now, we've just heard that there's a trade involving Jacksonville, which comes all the way up from 26 to 8. And we'll get that detail in a moment. So Jacksonville is now on the clock. This will be costly. I mean, that's a big move.
No, it is a big move, but Jacksonville, remember, they need to continue to build their defense. Greg Williams is their defensive coordinator now. They need a speed, edge rusher, just a good, solid defensive end. And the guy, as these guys have come off the board, all of a sudden, Derrick Harvey, the Florida defensive end, who, by the way, was one of the considerations for Bill Parcells as he was contemplating guys that he could use with the Miami Dolphins. Derrick Harvey of Florida is a guy who really rose up a lot of boards, and this has to be, I think, what Jacksonville's targeting. I could be wrong, but I think this has to be what they're targeting.
Right. Well, I think for Jacksonville, they feel they're a pass rusher away. They think they can be a Super Bowl caliber team. The question out with Derrick Harvey is, for a feared sack artist, only 4 sacks the first 8 weeks that come on late. And I think if you look at the best available, you see the offensive lineman, Ryan Clady of Boise State, a natural left tackle. Branden Albert played left guard, but in 2 games at left tackle, and with the skills he showed during workouts, he will be a left tackle moving forward into the NFL. Mendenhall with that great year for Ron Zook and the Illini, capped off by his brilliant effort against USC. And of course the offensive tackles, not just Clady and Albert. How about Otah from Pittsburgh? And also you look at the versatility of some of these guys. Chris Williams, a 245-pounder when he got there, now a brilliant left tackle. And Aqib Talib, the corners will start coming off the board soon. Philip Merling, sports hernia. Hey, that's not a concern to NFL teams. And Keith Rivers, not spectacular, just solid. And I've been all for the last 2-3 months talking about how can Jerod Mayo get into the late first round. He's got to go somewhere in the middle of the first. He played middle linebacker, played outside linebacker at Tennessee, 140 tackles in the SEC, great workouts and great character. For me, Jerod Mayo for the Lions, the Patriots. Jerod Mayo is a kid now accelerating way up into the middle of the first round.
And you look at what's happened in the Super Bowl. If you want to be something in the AFC, you're going to have to attack Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. If you're going to do that, you better have a pass rush. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, who truly believe, I think both of you said it, believe that they're a step away from the Super Bowl. If so, you've got to come with a pass rush. If you don't have it, you go to January, you're not going to score enough points to beat those teams. So if you're going to be that Super Bowl team, that's why you jump from 26, give away, I'm assuming, the farm to get the one guy that can give you that pass rush. You're going to have to move to quarterback.
Is he going to be a great pass rusher in the NFL? He was not necessarily throughout the entire season a great dominant performer at Florida. This is the NFL where those offensive tackles know every trick in the trade to keep you at bay. I thought he was the 23rd best player in the draft.
Well, let's go back a little bit. We've had like the Brickyard. Here's like the Indy 500. The Patriots are on the clock, but the Saints make a pick, and then the Ravens are on the clock, but the Jags are about to pick. So here we go. The Patriots and the Saints trade. They swap ones, and the Patriots get a 3, and the Saints get a 5. So an extra 3 for New England, it costs them a 5, and of course they just to do that to move down for 3. So Branden Albert is waiting, and he could go very soon. But Jacksonville making a move like this, I mean, all of a sudden, here's a team that we weren't. There's Keith Rivers, okay, and there he is, and a guy that can play all the positions at linebacker. And so the Jacksonville Jaguars, look, they're a team. That's Deshaun Jackson, the diminutive wideout from Cal, who can fly. And so we're all over waiting to see if these young men, we're 6 for 6 with the green one. We had to go somewhere else. But on the Jacksonville now, all of a sudden, they're our team of discussion. But I went out the window. Last year, they were authoritative. They won a playoff game on the road, high-scoring one, a wild one in Pittsburgh. And they played with New England for a while. So you're right, though. They can't be playing 30-point games in the playoffs.
And they've made some terrific moves in the offseason. Last year, they got rid of their quarterback and got a new quarterback. They went to the playoffs. So if you look at, this is a copycat league, Chris, as we know, Steve. The New York Giants got after the quarterback Tom Brady in the Super Bowl. Now the Jacksonville Jaguars, like you mentioned before, if you want to be a powerhouse in the AFC and overtake the Indianapolis Colts, you're going to have to get after Peyton Manning.
But what I don't understand is why it's taking so long for Jacksonville to get the card up. You make this trade, you've got your guy, don't you?
You know who you want.
So what are they doing?
Well, I think it's going to be Derrick Harvey, because I think that you look at teams in the NFL, there's a lot of mixed opinions. Like I said, I have him 23rd. I did not see a game-in and game-out dominance from an outside pass rush standpoint. So I think as a defensive end for Jacksonville, a team that was, their staple has been the defensive line. Is it going to be the defensive line moving forward? They hope it can be.
Just a quick word while you're looking at their D-line. Remember, Marcus Stroud is no member of the Buffalo Bills. Is John Henderson still the force that he was? Oh, God, he was a great player. The defensive end's not the same, but just let's put it wide. Would the Ravens do something like this? Theoretically, as they stand right now, they think they'd be in position as far down as 26 to take the next best quarterback in this draft. That's the Ravens' plan on this. They should, barring somebody else making a trade, should get whoever they like. Sacco, is it Henny, is it Fromm? That's where the Ravens.
You're right on the mark on that one.
Right.
I think with the Ravens moving up, moving down, I think the idea is to get a quarterback late in round one.
Yeah, right there. Right there. They should get the next one.
I'm not right. This is a little early still. This is still a little early.
I know that, but that was their thought on making the trade.
There's ways to get back in the first round.
Even though Matt Ryan was the consensus #1 quarterback in this draft, the other three guys, Joe Flacco from Delaware, Chad Henne from Michigan, Brian Brown from Louisville, a lot of general managers believe those guys can come in and play and be really good starters in this league.
So now the Ravens have to sweat out. They sweated very quickly. Ryan's gone. Now they sweat from 8 to 26. That's some sweat. But that's the draft. That's the draft finally.
Well, I think,
right?
I think
this has been a rubber stamp so far.
Well, from the Ravens' perspective, you talk about where they are right now and what they have to do. I think the quarterback position, you say, okay, who do you target there? Is there another position player to look at? Joe Flacco is a kid, I believe, has solidified that #2 quarterback spot for him. And I think for the Ravens, they need a young quarterback bringing him to the fold.
You're right, though. What took so long? Well, we're going to find out. Yeah, but what's the pick?
Baltimore has traded their selection to the Jacksonville Jaguars. With the 8th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Derrick Harvey, defensive end, Florida.
Well, Mel, you said it. This would be the first reach, right? Look, I've done enough drafts with you, 25 of them. This is a reach here?
I believe, and like I said, I saw this kid. I didn't think he had enough sacks. And Herbie, you watched him a lot as well. What's your opinion?
Well, all I can tell you is this guy is a power defensive end, Mel. You know from looking at a lot of tape on him. 6'4", 270 pounds. Great character. Talked to Urban Meyer about him last night. Outstanding effort. Known as a guy because he plays at Florida to have tremendous quickness, but probably more of a power guy, but a guy that can also play against the run, Mel, not just a guy that's going to come off the edge. I think he's a complete defensive end.
Well, you know what? I mean, we say a reach, but we don't. I mean, they're just on your board, Mel. Ohio State in that championship game would not call this pick a reach.
I wish you would see that every week, right? And I think that's the thing. You saw it. You saw flashes of brilliance where you said, hey, this kid's got to be a top 5 pick. Other games, he was not nearly as effective. Now, Florida did lose a lot of starters to graduation. That allowed teams to focus on Derrick Harvey. But the 4.8 40 time, that's a concern, but he is quick out of the blocks. His 10-yard time was very good. So I think with Derrick Harvey, mixed opinion, because week in and week out in the SEC, he wasn't the pass rusher he was supposed to be.
You know what, though? It's the last game on the schedule. I'm just saying, Jacksonville versus Baltimore. Maybe Troy Smith is starting a quarterback for Baltimore, and here comes Harvey again. Well, Cincinnati's on the clock, and here's a moment ago.
Yes, sir.
Aha! The phone has rung. What could that mean? Could be.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
After months of speculation,
years of preparation. The fate of a franchise hangs on a 4x6 card. Complete coverage on NFL Network. And for all your draft news and information, log on to NFL.com.
I really got sick and tired of every day when I met somebody. They would look at the top of my head, and then they'd look me in the face.
I think my hair looks better now than it did when I was in my 20s.
Hey, some people are beautiful, bald, but it wasn't for me.
I feel great about myself now. I look the way I think I'm supposed to look.
It was like a dream come true for me because I wanted my own hair back.
The Bosley treatment's absolutely exceeded my expectations, no question about it.
This is all me, so I'm thrilled.
I finally enjoy getting a haircut.
Now that I see the results, I wish I would have done it 4 or 5 years sooner.
I'm really excited about having my hair back.
When it comes to going bald, you now have a choice. To find out more about this clinically proven permanent hair loss solution from Bosley, call to receive this free guidebook, medical report, and DVD.
This is the only permanent solution to hair loss.
Choose to do something about your hair loss.
Call 1-800-573-3660. That's 1-800-573-3660. Or go online to bosley.com today.
Okay, back in New York at Radio City, the draft continues. Cincinnati on the clock, number 9 overall. Ron Jaworski, Kirk Herbstreit down on the floor, Radio City Music Hall here with me. We sat and watched the Bengals in a Monday night game where they ran out of linebackers. So sitting here at pick 9, it might make sense to bolster the defense where Marvin Lewis made his name as an NFL coach.
Yeah, there's no question. And Mike Zimmer comes in as the new defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. And it's clear to me he had an impact on the choice they were going to make, because you get a Keith Rivers, a linebacker, that will be an impact linebacker. One of those versatile run-around guys. May not blow up the running back in the running game, but one of those guys will be very effective in the pass game. Mike Zimmer will use him wisely.
This is a franchise that has not won a postseason game in 17 years, the longest in the National Football League. It is a franchise you follow as a fan, Kirk, and it's a franchise that has been frustrating for their fans to watch for many years.
Yeah, it's become the abyss. This will probably be the last you hear of Keith Rivers if he ends up going to Cincinnati. What a great player. 4-year starter for USC. Tremendous speed, NFL speed. And when you look at this USC defense, Mike and I were talking about this at the break, for a team that's known for their offense, you have 2 players already picked in the top 10, and next year you could probably have 3 more from USC that'll be up in the close to the top 10 or top 15. So USC, boom, showing and flexing their muscles. They're not just offense, they're coaching a lot of defense out there with Pete Carroll too.
All right, Herbie, thank you very much. Let's very quickly recap the trade, or tell you about the trade. We said it would be expensive for Jacksonville to come all the way up in Baltimore's slot to take Harvey, and it was. They swapped ones, and it cost them 2 3s and a 4. But if Derrick Harvey becomes a pass rusher extraordinaire, and they have the window right now, it's worth every move. Meanwhile, Baltimore, who is very thin in a lot of places, who need to replace or certainly, have a third player in a lot of positions very quickly, they just picked up a bunch of.
And the thing about the Baltimore Ravens, boom, they had a history of drafting well. They know how valuable 3rd and 4th round picks are, and the old day 2 when you talked about rounds 4 through 7. This team does a great job bringing young players in that aren't the guarantee, the obvious guys coming into the NFL. And what they have to do now is get that quarterback. And I think you have 3 other quarterbacks outside of Matt Ryan. You have Joe Flacco, who I think clearly is the 2nd best quarterback, Brian Brom, Chad Henne.
Meanwhile, here's the Bengals.
With the 9th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Keith Rivers, linebacker, USC.
So here's a guy that is versatile for sure, can play right at the Sam, the Will, and the Mike, or the strong and the weak in the middle.
I think what you like about Keith Rivers for Cincinnati is being character. I mean, this team needs guys that are coming in focused with work ethic during the offseason, you're going into training camp, and during the season to be solid, consistent, and reliable. Now, he is not, in my opinion, a spectacular off-the-charts player, not the dominant guy in some games that you expected considering his physical ability. But I'll tell you what, his production overall was good, and like I said, he brings it every week. And he turned out late in his career to be very durable, smart kid. Talk about football intelligence, you talk about a kid who, as I said, has character and brings that work ethic. And I think for no team in this draft, Cincinnati Bengals, you talk about more at the top of the list for teams that need to try to get players now. They're not going to be issues off the field. And for Keith Rivers, that's never going to be a problem.
No, and when they drafted David Pollock from Georgia a couple years ago, even though he was a projection from defensive end to linebacker, that was a good character pick. They take Odell Thurman, the linebacker from Georgia. Bad character pick. Pollock's now injured. He's retiring because of the injury. Thurman coming back.
When I think about the Bengals over the years, if you just kind of take a big picture, you say most of the time early in the first round they pick specimens, guys that are bigger, the fastest, biggest arms, or the fastest guys. Here you say, well, Mel, maybe he's not as productive, but a solid character. You talk about character, you talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. That's going to be important as we go forward with Marvin Lewis, because he's got to reclaim this team after this Chad Johnson debacle.
When I say not productive, Steve, what I mean is not as many impact, game-changing plays, Key, but I think overall his production was solid. I didn't see just the Junior Seau wow-type play.
Well, you look at that number of 55 out of USC, there's 4 linebackers that were drafted in the first round wearing that number, and he's the 4th guy. But he doesn't jump out at you in terms of this all-American, great, terrific player. But I think he'll project well in Mike Zimmer's defense. He's a USC, has high character. He had a former NFL head coach, so he knows what he's getting into, and I think they're going to do a great job. He brings leadership to that locker room. And on defense, they need help from last year, the Cincinnati Bengals.
They need help in the locker room. This has been one of the most underachieving there. A couple of years ago, my goodness, here they come. Carson Palmer, the receivers, Chad Johnson, now at odds. I mean, let's go, Cincinnati. I mean, the kind of the motor is running, and you're running out of gas. We'll be back.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
On June 6th, I wanted to leave the army.
What will you do?
I want to cut hair. Zohan is coming to America.
Have you ever worked with dreads before?
It's crazy.
Let's go. I'm perfect for the job.
And your bad hair day could be his finest hour.
Stay out of my business, Mustafa.
You like to insult people? What are you, bionic? Adam Sandler.
No, I only like the girls. Thanks anyways.
You don't mess with the Zohan. In theaters everywhere, June 6th.
Who could that be? Oh, wow. I'm there for you, buddy. That was Brad. He really wants to vent.
We should go.
Ready to vent?
Let's vent.
Let's vent.
Let's vent.
Introducing the Vented Wide Mouth Can from Coors Light. It lets in air for a smooth, refreshing pour.
Is he okay?
I think we'll be venting a little longer.
Frost brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
It all starts today. You are the new prototypes. We are Under Armour. The future is ours!
We are back in New York, and the NBA playoffs, of course, are back on ESPN. 2 games tonight. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett and the Celtics. They lead the Atlanta Hawks 2-0. They meet the Hawks now with Game 3 of the series. And at 10:30 Eastern, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets take on Carlos Boozer and the Jazz. Game 4 of that series. Jazz lead 2-1. Your NBA destination is ESPN. Well, money last year of the top 7 picks. And in addition to everything else the Patriots have done, they are fiscally responsible, for lack of a better term. So they move out of 7 to 10, and still, if indeed it's the corner that they want, will get the top corner that they desire. If that's what they want to do, as they're on the clock now, is the top 7 salaries of last year, and so the Patriots aren't in that group this year. But here they are at number 10. They pick up a 3 and cost them a 5 to make the trade. Should they be concerned about the way they were rushed in the Super Bowl? Or was that one?
Of course, but those guys will get. I think that was more about when we were in warm-ups. I remember Ronnie Lott and I were down going on the Bill Walsh thing at the very beginning of the game, and he turned to me and said, "Look, these guys don't look ready to play." I think they looked at it as a coronation. I don't look at that offensive line.
With the 10th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Jerod Mayo, linebacker, Tennessee.
You know what? Let me tell you what this is. This is a player, and he's not alone. Rivers was one, Albert is one. Jerod Mayo can play anywhere, right? All three positions at linebacker, and the Patriots covet players just like this.
It's interesting. Back about 3 months ago, everybody said Keith Rivers is going in the top 10, and Mayo is going maybe 29 in San Francisco. And my point on every radio show and every TV spot I did was there can't be that much separation between Mayo and Rivers. Mayo is a productive kid, 140 tackles this past season in the SEC. Played middle linebacker, played outside linebacker very effectively. One thing New England wants is smart players. This kid is very intelligent, great character. We talked about that for Rivers, but he was more of a dominant performer than Keith, and ironically, they go back-to-back picks. So I think for Bill Belichick, linebacker, secondary, that back seven, very suspect going into this year, and Jerod Mayo is going to provide an immediate boost. If you talk about workouts, this kid ran a 4.54 at 242 pounds, great athletic ability, productive, smart. What else do you want?
Kid, younger, on defense. I mean, they have to do it. We don't know if Junior Seau is going to be a Pat next year. We know that their defensive backs, I won't go through it all right now. We'll have the chance. There's a major turnover, the biggest name being Asante Samuel now on Philadelphia. They're pretty stout up front still. But Wilfork and Warren and, of course, Big Richard.
That's not the concern. That really is not the concern.
Well, I think at
back seven.
I think the back seven, if you can get strong at the linebacker position, you can find some corners. Bill Belichick has proven that over and over again. Get solid at the linebacker position, get solid at the defensive front. You can find some corners and some safeties that fill in the gaps. They know what they're doing when they draft.
Well, what was Bill Belichick? He was a linebacker coach for a good stretch. And Teddy Bruschi, Mike Vrabel, even though he had a Pro Bowl year, Junior said, yes, they are getting up there in age. This had to be addressed. And just like Mel said, this guy was really, really productive. I know a lot of teams have liked him better than Keith.
You know what, though? Go ahead. It was a long season last year. He had the whip to those kids all year long. Yes. And that defense wilted towards the end. We saw it in Baltimore on Monday night. They were demoralized when they were running that football in the fourth quarter. That defense better get younger quickly because the rest of the league is not going to allow what happened last year. And every game is going to be a Super Bowl. You think it's a Super Bowl last year for the New England Patriots. This year, they better get young and aggressive because that defense did wilt towards the end of the season.
They and you know what opponents of the Patriots will get 15 yards for next year? Holding the Mayo. You had to. It's an hour in, we had one. The Buffalo Bills are on the clock as they try to circle the wagons in their division. By the way, the Patriots, on paper, and I hate to do that, the percentage of their opponents for the coming year is, quote, the easiest of any of them, .387. I mean, it's April, I'm just saying it as a stat. The Buffalo Bills, boy, did they hit last year. 2 rookies, injury to Lossman. Trent Edwards took over at quarterback. He was very good. Not great, but very good. Young man from Stanford, Marshawn Lynch, was outstanding as a running back from Cal. They need to get big. The Bills in that game against the Giants just looked smaller. Marcus Stroud and former Giant Kavika Mitchell would be big. The Buffalo Bills are a team that had more people on IR last year. They had more folks. Somehow they got 7 or 9 for Dick Duran last year. They played with a lot of heart. They had that wonderful game against the Cowboys, which they ended up losing. But now they got what? A QB? And they have a running back? Now what?
In the last 12 months, that's what your point is. And they really do. I think Trent Edwards is a long-term answer for them at quarterback. I also think that you saw Marshawn Lynch. You think about how the Cowboys were formed and all of these Super Bowl teams, they think in terms of triplets. You know, we need the big three. We need the quarterback, the running back, and the receiver. Is this the point where you reach a little bit, and you guys would know better, is this the point where you go for that big receiver?
Well, you're talking about big receiver because Lee Evans is a very good receiver. Yes. I think there's been a lot of debate within their organization whether it was going to be, they loved Keith Rivers. I know that Dick Duran, the coach, loved Keith Rivers. Still got a lot of questions there. So I think the receiver was the second or third on the list for this big. We'll see. Boom, I'm sure you got a cab driver somewhere.
My cab driver's stuck at Niagara Falls right now, but, you know, for a young quarterback, a tight end would be, they could use one of them. I know it's a little high.
What about a corner, Boom? They got
Yes, they could definitely.
I mean, you got Terrence McGee, you got corners on the board right now, whether it's Leodis McKelvin, Aqib Talib, Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, Mike Jenkins, the 4 elite corners are on the board, and Devin Thomas, the wide receiver out of Michigan State. For Buffalo, if you want Thomas, you'd prefer to trade down a bit off of 11. 11, but cornerback and a big receiver are their top two needs.
I think McKelvin makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Or Cromartie.
With the 11th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Buffalo Bills select Leodis McKelvin, quarterback, Troy.
Remember, just a year ago, they lost Nate Clements in free agency to San Francisco. They're in a division in which the Patriots scored almost 600 points. So, hello, here's a corner.
They need a corner big time. Boom. Terrence McGee on one side. Now you get Leodis McKelvin. You talk about anticipation and awareness in man coverage. He has that. Kid had a brilliant year. I mean, he really picked it up from terms of being a cornerback. He had been a great punt kickoff returner, dynamic on special teams. This year, he became an elite cornerback. The issue I have with Leodis McKelvin, it's been discussed, even though he's a return man, the hands, the ability to come away with interceptions when the opportunity presents itself is questionable. Ball skills are an issue with Leodis McKelvin. 3 interceptions over the last 2 years and just 16 pass breakups. Aqib Talib, 11 picks and 35 pass breakups over the same period of time. So for me, that's the only issue I have with McKelvin. If he had better ball skills, he might be a top 5 or 6 pick in the first round.
That's a pretty good pick for them being in the AFC East. He is a pretty decent-sized cornerback to go up against the Randy Moss or the Lavernius Coles of the New York Jets. And now that Miami Dolphins are starting to retool, you know they're going to go after some big wide receivers. So it's a pretty good pick for the Buffalo Bills.
But as Mel, I got to bring this up here. Aqib Talib from Kansas is very highly rated. A lot of teams have taken him off their draft boards because of the character issue.
Right, I would say this. Rogers Cromartie, 1AA, not real tough in run support. You look at a kid like Aqib Talib, as you said, off-the-field concerns. You look at a situation here with McKelvin, lacks great ball skills. Mike Jenkins, great against Auburn, a little inconsistent in other games. So all 4 of the top cornerbacks, there's some concerns that maybe push them down just a bit into the middle of the first round.
I mean, I know we're on now to Denver. McKelvin playing for Troy. I mean, they had a schedule tougher than half the NFL teams, right? They played Auburn, Alabama. Didn't they win a lot?
I bet Troy. O.C. Yamanyura, okay? DeMarcus Ware, Leodis McKelvin, not bad.
All right, so the Bills go up the first defensive back. The Denver Broncos on the clock. We'll be back.
DirecTV is doing very well in customer satisfaction. What do we do?
I learned this in business school when I read about business school in a book. We can't improve our service, but we can improve the price. We can make it higher.
You know what? That's not a bad idea.
We'll get the people with disposable income, and they can dispose of it to us.
And they don't watch TV. They're workaholics.
They wouldn't know HD if they'd sat in their lap and called them mama.
Get more TV for your money. Call 1-800-DIRECTV.
The road to the finals continues tonight with a doubleheader on ESPN. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen lead the dominating Celtics into Atlanta, looking to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks.
That'll wake the crowd up.
Then at 10:30, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets can level their series with the Jazz in a pivotal Game 4. The NBA playoffs, Celtics Hawks and Rockets Jazz, tonight on ESPN.
The Lenovo ThinkPad has a magnesium alloy roll gauge, making it one of the very strongest notebooks out there. We just wanted to remind you, we have brains, too. Protect your ideas. Lenovo ThinkPad, powered by Intel Centrino with vPro, ultra durability and performance.
SignCompaniesOnline.com. Just enter in a city or zip code and instantly connect with local sign companies who specialize in banners, vehicle graphics, and many other types of signs. For a new image or just updating your look, it's all on SignCompaniesOnline.com.
To help avoid dental problems, I give patients Act Restoring Mouthwash, the 3-Act mouthwash.
Act 1 kills germs for fresh breath. Act 2 restores minerals. Act 3 strengthens enamel.
It's why we recommend it.
Act Restoring Mouthwash, the one dentists believe in.
Back in all of a sudden, last year was the longest first round ever. This is going to be the shortest. Back here with 10 minutes a pick, and we are flying. We are, my goodness, close to or past a third of the way through the first round. We have the Denver Broncos have made a selection. We'll find out in a moment, followed by Carolina. The Broncos. Well, we'll discuss the Broncos in a moment. This is a franchise. It's in an interesting spot.
With the 12th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Ryan Clady, tackle, Boise State.
First Bronco from Boise State to go in the first round, so a Bronco becomes a Bronco. We had 7 straight defensive players up until now. So Jay Cutler will be happy for this pick.
He will be very happy. I think, boom, you look at a left tackle from Boise State, a lot of experience in pass protection. The problem is he wasn't challenged that much by quality defensive ends, so that'll be an issue coming into the NFL. But yeah, 6'6", 310 pounds, super athletic, tremendously long arms, very good technique. And I think this is the kid you talk about getting stronger in the weight room, getting a more physical demeanor in terms of run blocking. Got to get a little tougher. Got to get in that weight room, as I said. Yeah, 24 reps and get that up. That was respectable, certainly, but play with more of a mean streak. I think pass blocking initially, how he adjusts to those great defensive ends coming off that right side. But Jay Cutler certainly needs a left tackle. I give him a B+ grade, different from the fans' grade of A just a bit, because I want to see him against the quality elite guys, which he didn't go up against at Boise State.
Keyshawn, Steve, Jay Cutler in the offense. Does he have what it takes?
I think he will. You know, he's learning under Mike Shanahan right now, and Mike Shanahan has a history of plugging guys in, saying, I need one player. I'm glad to see that they got away from that, a skill position player. They didn't get a running back. They didn't get a wide receiver, and he has a history of doing that. But I think Jay Cutler will settle in now in his second, third year in the National Football League and start to move the Denver Broncos into the right direction.
Well, there's no question that Jay Cutler has the physical skills. And we've seen those throws early on. He can also move around and run a lot of Mike Shanahan's bootleg. He opens up the playbook and lets Mike call all the plays in the book. But what you wonder as a young player, is he going to grow into that element what John Elway had in Denver, which he'll always be compared to, or other great quarterbacks. It's that it factor that Kirk Herbstreit talks about. It's that over my dead body, this is going to get done. No other way is this going to happen other than I get it done. And I think that's what I'm looking for from Jay sometime in the future, this year especially. This is my team. I'm going to get this done, and I want that personality to come out.
Just think about real quick, though, when Mike Shanahan won his 2 Super Bowls back-to-back, he had big-time tackles. Gary Zimmerman is going into the Hall of Fame this summer, and he also had Tony Jones. Having a tackle in those Super Bowl years certainly was something he was thinking about here.
All right, so Denver, this is the earliest they have picked since the 90s, and Mike Shanahan doesn't plan on picking this early again. Now we have Carolina on the clock. You know, not long ago they played in one of the most exciting Super Bowls we can ever remember. 3 years ago, the NFC Championship game. But last year, starting with the injury to Delhomme, they dusted off Vinny Testaverde. It was a disaster. Pass offense. What happens in the most fearsome foursome in football? Rucker retired. Julius Peppers, 2.5 sacks. Jenkins, a Jet. Muhsin Muhammad comes back.
That was going to be a bad pick.
Sean Foster is now a 9. So Carolina, another team, and maybe here starts our run on offensive tackles. I mean, that could be something that could happen now. Meanwhile, let's go to Sal Paolantonio in Baltimore. Sal.
Well, Boom, the Carolina Panthers were also thought to be in the market for a quarterback. And when you look at the board right now and what quarterbacks are available and who has them slotted where, first you got to go to Joe Flacco of the University of Delaware. And that's where the Baltimore Ravens really have their top quarterback rated. Flacco 1, and then 1A is Chad Henne out of Michigan. And that's why the Baltimore Ravens moved all the way back to 26. When I talked to head coach John Harbaugh a little bit while ago, he said, now the challenge for us is to get a quarterback at 26, but they may have to sweat it out because there are a lot of teams that are interested in that spot in perhaps moving up to 26. Miami or the Jets, or other teams like the Seattle Seahawks may be interested in a quarterback. So Baltimore may be sweating it out, Boom.
Well, we'll see what happens there. Baltimore's going to have to sweat it. But back to here now. We have Denver, picking Clady, Boise State tackle. We've had a run on pass rushers, defensive players. Carolina, Chicago, Detroit. This could be linemen, and a lot of them in a hurry. We'll see. Well, here's Carolina.
With the 13th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Jonathan Stewart, running back, Oregon.
So much for the lineman theory.
Well, you get a tandem now. D'Angelo Williams, boom, a former late first-round pick out of Memphis. Pretty good year. 5-yard average per carry with 717 yards. Now they get somebody to help out D'Angelo Williams. And a power running back, a 5'10 and a quarter, 235-pound powerhouse. You talk about a kid that did 28 reps at the combine. You see him here with 4.48 speed. He can go the distance. This is a kid loves contact. He takes on defenders. He does not save his body. He has had some injury issues throughout his career at Oregon. We thought this year he'd stay healthy. Then the toe injury, then the surgery. Well, would he get out of the first round? No. He will be ready for training camp, Mort. But here's a kid can complement D'Angelo Williams and maybe give this Carolina offense some juice. They don't have any right now. It's all Steve Smith, maybe D'Angelo Williams, and basically nobody else.
Yeah, when he had the toe surgery, all of a sudden people said, uh-oh, he might drop to the second round. But when you got the medical reports back, they said he's going to be fine. And I do know some teams that actually like Stewart ahead of Darren McFadden as a running back, as a full-time type guy. And if they weren't going to get a quarterback, John Fox, head coach, is going to run the football. This guy has a chance to take the pressure off whoever their quarterback is.
He was flying up the boards, as you point out, in the last couple of weeks. So Jonathan Stewart, second running back. Bears, Lions, Cardinals. And we're halfway through round one. Stay with us.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
Hey, guests first. Matt, honey, what would you like?
Anything's fine, Mrs. Barber. Dude, just tell her what you want.
You want a drumstick? Help yourself.
Go ahead. A whole bucket's drumsticks.
And thighs. Have one of both.
You don't have to be so polite.
Thanks, Nancy.
It's Mrs. Barber.
There's plenty of the good stuff to go around. Get 10 moist and juicy drumsticks and thighs for only $7.99. Life tastes better with KFC.
It all starts today. You are the new prototypes. We are Under Armour. The future is ours!
This Monday night, two high-powered offenses in a battle of the undefeated. The showdown down in Philly. Watch Russell Athletic ESPN Arena Football Monday at 8 as the Desperados battle the soul on ESPN2.
Mike Tyson, from knockouts to addiction.
It's a struggle. I want to take drugs every day.
Plus,
Vegas, baby.
The sports guy hits Sin City. An all-new E60, Tuesday at 7 on ESPN.
Back here at the NFL Draft in New York, and on your right, a view of what's going on your local ABC station. It's the Aaron's 312, the nationwide series racing at Talladega. And at last look, it was Dale Jr. in the lead in his Chevrolet. 61 laps through that event. So that is live over on your local ABC station. Keep an eye on that as we continue with the draft here on ESPN until 8 Eastern. Then we move to ESPN2 for our NBA playoff doubleheader. Mike Tirico, Ron Jaworski, Kirk Herbstreit down here. And the guys were just talking about perhaps a run of offensive tackles after the Ryan Clady selection. You also have a run of running backs perhaps happening here. Give me one thought on the Jonathan Stewart selection just a moment ago by the Carolina Panthers.
Well, the Carolina Panthers love to run the football downhill. So we always talk about the fit here draft day, and it's a good fit for the Carolina Panthers. However, I do have some concerns with Jonathan Stewart. In the National Football League, you can not only be a great runner, you've got to be an outstanding blocker and an outstanding receiver. I believe these are two areas where Stewart's going to have to improve. But he does bring a tremendous running element to the Panthers offense.
Hey, Charles, I think he has the ability athletically to improve in that area. Think about the offense that he came out of and what he was running with Dennis Dixon. Without a doubt, this running back, in my mind, fits in the NFL. He's a banger with his size at 235 pounds, and he can run away from Pac-10 defenses, which I think will, again, transition into the NFL.
Now in our Hummer best available, let's look ahead, guys. There's Chicago, not really in need of running back, but Detroit behind them after that. Rashard Mendenhall from Illinois is available.
Mendenhall, 5'10", 225 pounds, physical, hard, gets north and south, and really improved, maybe the most improved running back this year.
And a little loose with the football, though. I thought a little bit loose.
Felix Jones from Arkansas, guys.
Explosive. This is what you want. When you talk about Darren McFadden and Felix Jones, you talk about a 1-2 punch. Wow.
And you talk about those two guys being among the best available remaining backs, as we'll take a picture, and we've seen exclusively somebody looks at the players who are waiting. And in Chicago, Illinois, Rashard Mendenhall is waiting. The Bears are on the clock, but as we know, the Bears running back situation has been in flux over the last couple of years, especially with the decision they made last year. The man they've asked, the high draft pick, to carry the ball was not effective last year.
Yeah, and Cedric Benson did not get the job done. And if I'm the Bears, I'm taking a good, hard look at Rashard Mendenhall. He's a tough guy. He'll give you the tough yards, and he's got the quick feet. When I've looked at him on tape, when he is getting space with the football, he can make people miss. When you got a guy at 230 pounds that can make people miss, that's a good thing.
You see Benson, the other, unrelated to the Minnesota Viking Offensive Rookie of the Year, Adrian Peterson, was the secondary back, and Garrett Wolf, who was a rookie out of Northern Illinois. Kirk, we should point out when we talk about Rashard Mendenhall, and you and Brent Musburger did the Rose Bowl game on ABC. Ron Zook's building a very nice program in Illinois, and with all due respect to that Illinois program, the one guy playing for Illinois who looked like he could have gone to the other side and been a USC Trojan was Rashard Mendenhall in that game.
Yes, good point. It also should be mentioned that the thing about Mendenhall is I think he has most of his football ahead of him. You compare the number of carries that he has in college compared to all these other backs, his carries are down significantly, which I think is very, very good for his future in the NFL as far as holding up and being able to have a productive career.
So perhaps not Chicago if they don't address, but certainly Detroit, Chris, is a team that's looking at that position in offensive tackle as they follow their NFC North brethren on the clock.
All right, Mike, fellas, thank you very much. Now in the Norris division, the Chicago Bears. You talk about a fall from the Super Bowl. I know 7-9, and only the Seahawks in the last half dozen years have lost the Super Bowl and got back to the playoffs. But the Bears went from a dominating defense and plus whatever it was in turnovers to not a lot. And one of the worst-ranked defense and questions on offense.
And a team that looks like they have a lot of needs, especially in the offense. They need offensive linemen. There's a question at running back with Cedric Benson. There's a question at wide receiver. And guess what? There is still a question at quarterback. And I know they have Ross Grossman. I know they have Kyle Orton. But they've got to get a quarterback today. They've got to get a quarterback today.
I think you look at the second round for that quarterback, be it a Brian Brown. I don't think Chad Henne and Joe Flacco will be there, but maybe Brian Brown will be. But you're right. It's not going to be a defensive pick. This will be definitely an offensive pick. But left tackle, John Tate's 33 years of age. He belongs at right tackle. If your quarterback's going to have any chance, you got to get the left tackle because John Tate has to move over to the right side. You need a running back to work in unison with Benson. You need a wide receiver. Devin Thomas will look good because you only have one pick. So you better make it count. The left tackle is a
Let's look at the glass as half full, okay? We're going to say that this defense still has the elements to dominate if they can get it back together and stay healthy. Not only offensively to that point, Rex Grossman, we're going to say, is a late bloomer. I mean, a really late bloomer. And we still believe that he can actually get something done. You've got to protect him because if you don't, you have him no chance to come back and play some decent football.
With the 14th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Chris Williams, offensive tackle, Vanderbilt.
Well, here come the tackle.
Exactly. It might be that wrong. We said there were 5 left tackles that were going to go before 14. Well, that's not yet the case because Branden Albert from Virginia is still on the board, as is Jeff Otah from Pittsburgh. But Chris Williams, 245 pounds when he came to Vanderbilt, finishes out his career at 6'6", 318 pounds. And you look at his feet and his athleticism. He is a natural pass-blocking left tackle. You see him here getting the job done for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's had a pretty good track record when kids come out of that program. They're smart kids. They transition pretty well into the NFL. What he needs to do is get in the weight room, get a little stronger. 21 reps at the combine. He needs to pick it up from an aggressiveness standpoint as a run blocker. And he needs to develop that nasty streak. I didn't see that at Vanderbilt, but a guy in pass protection as a left tackle can get the job done.
Mort, let me change gears here a little bit here on the Bears. Brian Urlacher, the face of the franchise, the defensive player, he's hurting a little bit, but he's hurting inside. What's going on there? They did re-sign Briggs after a lot of acrimony. Where is that stand?
Well, Brian Urlacher wants a new contract. I mean, and he is still one of the, I think, top 10 players in this league. The Bears have said, no, we're not ready to do a new contract. Yes, he had some back surgery. He says that's not a problem. He's not demanding a trade. He wants to play in Chicago, but he is not happy with that Bears contract situation. And if you're ever going to take care of somebody, you would think Brian Urlacher is the guy you take care of.
Something that bears watching. The Detroit Lions are now on the clock, followed by Arizona. And so the Lions, you talk about a team that's changing over, well, the head coach is the same, Rod Marinelli. Mike Martz out as offensive coordinator. They started 6-2, but they ended 1-7. So the Detroit Lions are a team that will change their view completely on offense. Does that mean they pound the football? That's something to think about here. Or do they need a middle linebacker? Matt Millen was one who was the GM. We'll ponder the Lions in a moment. Here's Sal in Baltimore.
Well, Boomer, you still have two premier offensive linemen on the board. You've got Jeff Otah out of Pittsburgh, as Mel mentioned. You also have Branden Albert, a guard/tackle out of the University of Virginia. And I've been around the Philadelphia Eagles a lot in the last couple of months, and they are very concerned about the age of their two tackles. Trey Thomas, 33, John Runyon, 34 years old. Andy Reid talked about being concerned about just how much longer they can go. The Eagles have always had an interest in Branden Albert, but they may have to jump ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs in order to draft him. So let's keep an eye on that, Boomer. Andy Reid jumping ahead of the Chiefs.
That's a good call, because Albert, a lot of people didn't think he'd be even at this part of the draft. So there was one name that has fallen a little bit, Mel.
Well, I think the inexperience at left tackle, but I'll tell you what, everybody I talked to say, Branden Albert, forget about guard, he will be a left tackle. And if you go back and look at the Pitt game and the Middle Tennessee State game, Eugene Monroe will be a high pick next year. Their left tackle was injured. Branden Albert didn't find out till Thursday he was going to be starting. Played pretty well against Pitt, didn't allow a sack, was outstanding next week when he had some time to get ready for Middle Tennessee State. But still, the inexperience of left tackle may be an issue because he was a left guard. You're going to draft a left guard in the top 10 to 15, but I think he will be drafted as a left tackle, and you got to like his skills. Everybody was excited after workouts about the skill level he brings to that left tackle spot.
And the reason we're bringing this up now with Detroit on the clock is that we're talking about maybe this is the trade spot for the Philadelphia Eagles. And you look at the Lions, hey, they need offensive linemen. They need a running back. Rashard Mendenhall of Illinois and Felix Jones of Arkansas are still there. So if they trade back, it's because they still have a lot of needs, this Lions team.
Well, let's talk Detroit for just a second, if you don't mind, Boomer.
Go ahead.
Can I run the show?
Yes. They're on the clock.
This is the Detroit Lions. The firming defense, they have the best quarterback in the division.
Count them.
In John Kitna. Think about it. They have and they need to score some. If they can score 21 points a game next year, John Kitna's guarantee of making the playoffs and being a 10-game winner might become more true this year than last year if they can get that running back. I think a running back here makes a lot of sense.
Well, that's it. You say, well, wait a minute, but let's have the fans at home catch up. Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay. Tavares Jackson, Minnesota. Right?
Yeah.
And we're
and Rex Grossman.
Rex Grossman or Kyle Orton.
You got John Kitna.
So John Kitna, there you go.
And they have to get a running back here because it makes the most sense. They shored up their secondary in the offseason by bringing in some guys in the offseason, signing Brian Kelly, trading for the young man from Cleveland. So I think the running back makes the best pick for them right here.
Well, Mike Tirico, you see the Michigan papers daily. What's the spin out there?
Well, kind of what the guys are talking about with running backs. 236 carries, the fewest of any team in the NFL last year. 208 by the running back position. 218 of them are gone. Kevin Jones was released. T.J. Duckett has gone to Seattle. So they do need a running back there as of right now. Tatum Bell, currently #1 on their depth chart. And the tackle story is the one as well. There you see the Lions draft room in Allen Park as they are in there and making the decision. Matt Millen and Rod Marinelli. Rod putting much more of his stamp on day 2 of this draft, the head coach, and day 1. Guys, they are last in the league defensively in yards and points. Rod Marinelli made his money and made his name in this league as a defensive guy. I think they were really interested in Mayo, and when he came off the board, the Tennessee linebacker #10 to New England, that factored into what they were going to do. That's why they've traded this pick, and Kansas City is now the team on the clock, as Sal was talking about, because the Lions will have that running back offensive tackle option perhaps farther down. So Kansas City hops in here. And remember, with a team like Detroit, they have a lot of needs. And they've also been talk of Roy Williams potentially being traded. It would have to be a home run of an offer, a great offer for the Lions to move the wide receiver who has 1 year left on his deal. So that updates us on the Lions. And Chris, with Kansas City on the clock, we'll go back to you.
All right, Michael, thank you very much. So the Chiefs now are there.
Well, they heard you guys talking about Philadelphia trading up to 15 to get an offensive lineman, and they said, we better get on the phone, because Kansas City...
Well, God, they got ammo. They got more picks.
No question they were targeting an offensive line. Kansas City's got, remember, started this day with 13 picks, so they have a lot of maneuverability, certainly, to make this move. They had to address defense with that first pick. They got Glenn Dorsey. They have to get an offensive lineman. They need 3 offensive linemen in this draft.
Yes.
You know, and they give them flexibility, but one thing's for sure, if you have a needed offensive lineman and you have all those picks, you better get your needs filled and not miss out, and that's probably why they jumped ahead.
So the Chiefs on the clock. Now they will go into the season with, they got Larry Johnson still there, they got Tony Gonzalez still there, but and they drafted Bo in the first round last year, an outstanding wide receiver, but the rest of the offense, in many ways, revamped. Brody Croyle will probably start the year as quarterback, and we'll see what this trade is, and I think once Sal jumped on the name Albert, I think there it is. Yeah, the Chiefs are going to be busy these 2 days with these picks. Here we go.
The Detroit Lions have traded their choice with the 15th pick in 2008 NFL Draft. The Kansas City Chiefs select Branden Albert, guard, Virginia.
A smart pick. So there he is. Exhale. He's a Chief. He's been picked. Congratulations, Branden. He's so 2 Virginia players in the top half of the first round, by the way.
And it was expected. They didn't go a little higher than this. I thought Branden Albert would deserve consideration in the top 10. Kansas City, obviously, with Glenn Dorsey there, was going to get value with, I think, the #1 player in this draft. Then get back up to get Branden Albert. Number 71, you see him here playing the left guard spot. Talk about getting to the second level. Athleticism for somebody 6'5" and change, 311 pounds. He was spectacular in that regard. Now, nobody was as mobile from a left guard position, getting downfield to that second level and sustaining blocks as Branden Albert was. As I said, moving the left tackle for those 2 games, I thought really helped him go from maybe the 23rd pick to Pittsburgh up into, I thought, the top 10 of this draft. He ends up going 15 to the Kansas City Chiefs. So Branden Albert as a left tackle will be a work in progress. Limited experience at that position, but athletically, he's got what it takes for it.
And you mentioned Brody Croyle, the young quarterback, and people said, well, will they take Matt Ryan if he were there? Listen, they can't even evaluate Brody Croyle until they get players around him. An offensive line to block, maybe another receiver, get things up. You can't evaluate a quarterback when the supporting cast is so weak.
Well, they're starting to put some pieces in place there, picking up the linemen. They got a young quarterback, a running back that we believe will come back healthy, and a young wide receiver in Duane Brown. So they're starting to retool, and they got a lot of picks to find some other players on defense, Chris.
You like the highlight there, didn't you?
He caught a pass, a swing pass. That made me chuckle.
He's versatile. He's versatile. So the Chiefs move up. We'll get you details on that trade. It's Arizona and then Detroit. Only fell back 2 spots. No pick next. Arizona number 16 up next.
The road to the finals continues tonight with a doubleheader on ESPN. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen lead the dominating Celtics into Atlanta, looking to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks.
Wow, that'll wake the crowd up.
Then at 10:30, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets can level their series with the Jazz in a pivotal Game 4. The NBA playoffs, Celtics Hawks and Rockets Jazz, tonight on ESPN.
Coach, Coors Light is the world's most refreshing beer. Am I right?
Any doubters there?
No.
Okay, we're on the same page at least on one thing.
Coach, Coors Light in bottles, cans, or kegs, do they all deliver tremendous refreshment?
They all do.
Coach, I like Coors Light poured from a tap. What's that called again?
Who knows what that's called? That's the draft, okay?
Frost Brewed Coors Light, official beer sponsor of the NFL.
Coach, a beer that tastes as cold as the Rockies. Your thoughts?
There's a mountain that can be climbed.
See you at the top, buddy.
All new prototypes leave everything behind. this thing. It's us versus them. The game has changed. It all starts today. You are the new prototypes. We are Under Armour. The future is ours!
Short here. Dollar's down again. Oh, it's brutal.
No, it's feeble.
It's dropping like a lead balloon. Tanking. It's anemic.
It's just in free fall.
It's pathetic.
Hey, big O, what do you got there, fella?
Double cheeseburger from the dollar menu.
Did I say weak? Dollar's looking strong. Dollar's looking good.
Very good.
Hey, Owen, how you fixed on fries, buddy?
I'm good on fries. Thanks, Dave.
That's cold, man. Just thought I'd ask.
The McDonald's Beefy Cheesy Double Cheeseburger. Just one of the extravagant choices on the dollar menu.
This is the 2008 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Just for those of you scoring at home, welcome back to New York here at the NFL Draft. For swapping ones, the Lions get the better of the Chiefs in the third round. They swap threes, and they pick up a fifth-round pick as well, just for dropping back 2 spots. So Detroit improving themselves a little bit and allowing the Kansas City Chiefs to get Branden Albert. And now, for the latest this century, are the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, it's always within the first hour that we say, and the Cardinals are on the clock. But they're not anymore. They were 8-8 last year in the first year of Ken Whisenhunt. Best finish since '98 when Jake Plummer led them to the playoffs. Matt Leinart, injured last year, is named the starting quarterback with Kurt Warner still there. A lot of questions, but Larry Fitzgerald was re-signed. Antoine Bolden, unhappy, but boy, we know they have some skilled players. They do have an aging Edgerrin James who still runs hard, but Matt Leinart, time for him to step up, Key, and is he ready to do it?
Well, I think the Arizona Cardinals as a whole, they're starting to turn the corner as a football team, going 8-8, but Matt Leinart is the one setback right now. They're a little disappointed with him in the offseason, getting into a little bit of, not necessarily trouble, but finding himself in the news. And I think they want a more complete quarterback at studying, doing things that they feel that they can lead this franchise, but they're not shy at all with going with Kurt Warner later on in the year if they have to.
Well, I talked to Kurt earlier in the offseason, and he said, geez, I think I'm not sure I'm going to go back and play because I'm not going to back up. I don't want to do that. I want to play football. If I'm not going to play, then maybe I'll just retire. Well, obviously, he's coming back because I think the Cardinals have told him, hey, it's wide open. You come play. And when you tell me you have a first-round draft choice with Matt Leinart, and 2 years later, Kurt Warner's still looking to play, I think that says a lot about what they feel about Matt Leinart. Think about all the players that have rolled through over the years, Mark. You know what? It seems like there's hopefully some stabilization happening in Arizona.
I know. But another concern for Arizona is an offensive aging player, Edgerrin James. Edgerrin James was a productive back. He's over 1,000 yards. But when he gets to the second level, that's it. They are looking for an explosive running back, a Felix Jones type from Arkansas. And I know Rashard Mendenhall, Illinois, is on there as well. They need a cornerback, but they need an explosive player to take some heat off Matt Leinart and Kurt Warner.
They have so much talent. It really is criminal that they're not winning more football games with all that talent.
A new coach last year, 8-8. I mean, you can't really argue with that.
They have a tremendous amount of talent. They better start scoring some points. And to Mort's point, if you're going to have all those receivers and a quarterback that's at least either one of them plays as competent, you get a running back in there, might be something.
But I think if they draft a corner in this position, go after a guy like Dominique Cromartie, that'll solidify that secondary position because they were going after Leo Shepard in a trade earlier in the offseason. If they can somehow get a second, third round running back, I think they can fill that void and sparing Edgerrin James.
Look at the Western Division in the NFC. It's really not defensive heavy. So the truth is, if you can score enough points, you're going to win the division. And I think if they can get an explosive running back, they can score those points and steal that division.
They can get that guy in the second or third round.
You can get everybody in the second or third round. This is talking about an explosive running back.
But, you know, they have declared Leinart the starter, but nobody believes that. Leinart is still going to have to earn this job.
Ken Whisenhunt did not draft Matt Leinart. He is not married to Matt Leinart. Young quarterbacks need support from their head coach, I believe. And I think for Matt Leinart, not being drafted by the head coach is an issue.
Well, I mean, they're going in the right direction. And again, the Seahawks are the team in that division. However, there's room.
Well, let's be honest. The Cardinals have headed this direction before.
Yes,
and they've topped out right here. How do they take that next step where they can actually start to win the division year in, year out? They can start to threaten the championship kind of games. That's the difference, and that's what Ken Whisenhunt is hopefully going to make a difference in the long run.
Arizona's made their selection.
Well, we'll see what they do right here.
We're halfway.
Running back. DB.
With the 16th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie, cornerback, Tennessee State.
Key, you got it. Tennessee State, Mel, a little different level of competition. Should we be concerned?
Well, you can put Michigan or USC up there, Boone, based on the way he performed in Mobile at the Senior Bowl practices. That was what made him a solid, maybe even early first-round pick, you would have thought. Then he kind of backed off a bit in recent projections, down to around Arizona, actually, in the last projection you do in terms of the first round and the way it could come off the board. But I think when you look at Rodgers-Cromartie, the height, 6'1½", he's gained a little weight. He's in the 183 range now. It was about 172. He has ball skills. There's no question about it. Blocked a lot of kicks during his career. Very athletic. The question with Rodgers-Cromartie is, coming from 1AA, but I think he showed at the Senior Bowl practice he can deal with big-time receivers or 1A receivers. The toughness issue and run support. He's not a good tackler, doesn't throw his body around, and you talk about a situation more moving forward into the NFL. You can't play with 10 men on the field against the run, and that's something he's got to prove. Is he tough enough to be a guy who will get you some tackles when you need to on the edge?
They are moving Andrew Roll, a former first-round corner.
Of Denny Green.
Yeah, of Denny Green's, two safeties, certainly. I love, when I went to the Senior Bowl, love this guy. Great athlete. He looks good enough to play at this level. He only has one kidney, but everybody said we don't have a problem with that.
And if he can play defensive back anywhere close to the way his namesake, Mr. Cromartie, played defensive back at San Diego last year, well, then Arizona just got themselves one hell of a pick. Detroit is on the clock, followed by Houston and Philadelphia as we roll on from Radio City Music Hall in New York.
Sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
Good luck keeping up.
What is that noise?
Buddy, I'm driving the top down.
I just finally know what I have to do.
Iron Man, rated PG-13.
It's hot. So hot. The servers are too hot! Save me!
I already have. We got an IBM Blade Center. It's the smartest way to optimize our IT. Runs cooler, saves energy.
The IBM Blade Center and quad-core Intel Xeon processor.
Junior Wraps, new at Sonic. Grab one today for some big Sonic taste in a smaller snack size. Pick your favorite flavors and start snacking. And stop in for happy hour. Half-price fountain drinks and slushes every day from 2 to 4 p.m.
Going somewhere?
What are you in for? Wi-Fi?
Break free from Wi-Fi with broadband access from Verizon Wireless. Click to connect and work in more spots than just hotspots on America's most reliable wireless broadband network. Now get a free broadband access modem. Monthly plan starting at $39.99. It's reliability to go. Verizon Wireless.
Snickers. Sound of feasting home. The feast. It's ruined. DirecTV gets really high marks for customer satisfaction. What do?
We change the customer. Because the people we got right now, they're terrible.
No,
they call in, they're angry all the time.
For
customer
satisfaction that beats cable, call 1-800-DirecTV.
ESPN's coverage of the 2008 NFL Draft is brought to you by Hummer, like nothing else. The new film Iron Man, in theaters Friday, May 2nd, rated PG-13. And IBM. When you're ready to stop talking innovation and start doing, visit IBM.com/doing.
Back in New York, moments ago, the commissioner with the Detroit Lions pick.
In an earlier trade from the Kansas City Chiefs, with the 17th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Gosder Cherilus, tackle, Boston College.
Now, we had a feeling that now 4 of the last 6 have been tackles, Mel. The typical slug-it BC lineman, correct?
Well, he's a right tackle. He's not a left tackle, Boomer. If you watch him at left tackle this year, there were times he struggled, particularly early in the season in pass protection. But as a junior, playing that right tackle spot, did a real good job for Boston College. They had 2 backs, Andre Callender and L.V. Whitworth. Good, not great players, but they had 7 100-yard rushing games due primarily to Gosder Cherilus. So while I think it is a slight reach, I'm 32nd on the board. He's a right tackle prospect. That's what the Lions need. They're going to run the ball with Jim Coletto, the new coordinator, Mort. So I think if he plays like he's a junior, he will assist the running game. He's a tough, fiery kid. And I think when you look at the fan grade in F, I don't agree with that. I think that's far too harsh. I was thinking C+. Said C because I had him 32. He goes 17, but they did move down and to get him, and he is a right tackle. So forget the senior year. He's not a left tackle. Detroit knows that. And I think Matt Millen liked the fire, the intensity, and the run blocking ability he gives you because they are going to get a personality now, a tough personality. Not 7 passes a game like it was last year. They're going to run the football.
Well, so Cherilus goes to Detroit, and now Houston is on the clock, but Baltimore has just traded to this spot. So maybe they're just antsy, right, with the quarterback. I mean, I got to assume that's what this is. But we will we'll get back to comment on that. Cherilus, you said, boy, that's a bad grade. He did better than that in the classroom. Yeah. Come on now.
Oh, boy. Right? He got definitely worth a CC+. Boom.
All right, so we have second BC player to go in the first round. We'll be back with Baltimore on the clock, but let's go to SportsCenter right now.
All right, Boomer, Scott Reese in our SportsCenter studios, updating you on playoff action. First, in the NBA, Dwight Howard and the Magic lead their series with Toronto 2-1. This has been a great ball game. Chris Bosh, the fundamentally sound two-hand throwdown. He's got 29, and we've got ourselves a 4-point game in the third quarter. NHL, Henrik Zetterberg's 4th goal of the playoffs makes it 4-0 Wings over Colorado, trying to take a 2-0 lead in that series. SportsCenter, 11 Eastern, ESPN 2. Stay current with ESPN News. Chris.
We worked him out. All those big throws he likes in their offense. In cuts.
All right, we are back, and it's Joe Flacco on the phone. We just told you Baltimore traded, so you add it up. Let's see. Flacco, he lives in southern New Jersey, played football in Delaware, and if this is indeed the move for Baltimore, which we got to assume it is, he's within a couple of hours now of growing up and then a couple of hours of where he would play pro football.
I said earlier, Boom, there were ways to maneuver in the first round to get a quarterback, and I think for Baltimore it was Matt Ryan. They didn't want to give up all that to move up. They moved down with Jacksonville, then they moved back up. So I think the maneuverability of having those picks, and also you look at a guy like Joe Flacco, fear that somebody else may jump back into the first round and take him. They didn't want to get their 3rd quarterback. They want to get their 2nd highest rated quarterback. Cam Cameron has a very high opinion of Joe Flacco, and for the Ravens, you need a young quarterback. You had to come out of this draft with a guy that they thought could be a starting quarterback and a very good starting quarterback in this league.
Well, if this is indeed the case, a gentleman who we used to work with here for years and we love, the late Tom Mees, Delaware alum, would be smiling right now. If Joe Flacco indeed a first-round pick from the Fighting Blue Hens to Baltimore. Let's check down with Baltimore now in Sal Paolantonio. Sal?
Well, Boomer, when you look at the Brian Billick era here in Baltimore, they started 12 different quarterbacks. That's second only to the Miami Dolphins, who started 13 over the same 9-year period. And owner Steve Bisciotti of the Baltimore Ravens told his front office that he wanted to have a quarterback for the future before this day was over. When they moved back down to 26, they knew it was going to be tough to get Joe Flacco at 26 because there were other teams that would be interested. Bill Parcells in Miami might jump back into the first round. the Kansas City Chiefs, Carolina Panthers, Seattle, and St. Louis. And they didn't want to take that risk of sitting there at 26 and waiting, and maybe Flacco wouldn't be available. That's why they made the aggressive move to go to get Flacco at number 18, Boomer.
All right, Sal, thank you. Well, I mean, we tried this year to keep the suspense here till the pick was announced, but the Raven cap kind of gives it away, doesn't it? I mean, don't call me a private eye here, but I'm just feeling that that's what that is.
You know, Mel mentioned Cam Cameron, the new offensive coordinator of the Baltimore Ravens, and Ozzie Newsome, their general manager, really wanted Cam Cameron. And one thing Cam Cameron saw when he worked out Joe Flacco was a guy who had the ability to make all the big throws that he likes in his offense. Yes, they'll say he went to Division I AA. He was a Division I recruit. He went to Pitt. I know a lot of Division I schools that recruited the guy, and they believe by year 2 or year 3, this guy has a chance to be something special.
You talk about Joe Flacco, you talk about a guy that did everything that was in his control, which is to play great football. Guys that worked him out in the pros said that he was able to make all the throws as a pro would have. Tight windows. He was able to do a tremendous amount of things, and he's best athlete in the draft at quarterback. You talk about a kid, just because he played at Delaware, that's the only knock against him.
Hey, Jaws, 6'6" with a rocket arm, huh?
No question about it, Boomer. When you watch Flacco, he can really throw the football. Let's take a look at the commissioner.
In a trade from the Houston Texans, with the 18th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Baltimore Ravens select Joe Flacco, quarterback, Delaware.
Jaws, I thought we were going to continue. It's over 660 at quarterback. I mean, tall is a good thing. This is basketball tall. Right, Mel?
I'll tell you what, this kid's 6'6" and a quarter, 235 pounds, with the strongest arm of any quarterback in the draft. You see, he's an athlete. This is not a guy who's a statue in the pocket. I think for Cam Cameron, a little heavy-legged at times, he'll coach that up, and he can flick it. Flacco can flick it with the wrist, and he can get it down the field. The ball really jumps out of his hand. And I'll tell you what, you look at a kid this size. Derek Anderson was a Baltimore Raven. Now he's a Cleveland Brown. He was a big quarterback for it with a strong arm, and now they got a kid in Joe Flacco who was a quick study. He learned their playbook in one day when they brought him in, quicker than any other quarterback in the draft in terms of picking up that offense.
And the only concern you heard about the guy really is, okay, he was playing in the shotgun a lot at Delaware, and so just moving away from center, you know, being a big guy, learning how to move away from center is going to be the adjustment, but he is a good enough athlete certainly to learn how to do that.
So 1AA, which Flacco is with Delaware, if Flacco flick, is that what we got coming in Baltimore? But you'll be able to drive down to the stadium and see it. Of course, Phil Simms turned out beautifully, and you see some of the other. Steve McNair, who just retired, and would be remiss if we didn't commend him on just a marvelous career, one of the great Warriors, former co-MVP of the league, and of course 2 years ago led Baltimore to 13-3, his great years with Tennessee. But let's go now to Mike and Jaws and Herbie on Flacco and the Eagles, who are next on the clock. Jaws, up your alley, pal.
Yeah, let's go to Jaws here for a second to continue your thought on Flacco and how you think he'll project going forward. Of course, like cold hard facts are going to be on the other quarterbacks who are sitting around here in this draft. Many did not have anyone but Matt Ryan going in the first round. Flacco makes it at least 2.
Yeah, and when you look at Flacco going in the first round, it's John Harbaugh, the new head coach down in Baltimore. He was with Donovan McNabb in Philadelphia for a number of years. The Eagles love to attack down the field. So if you're going to maintain that style of offense, even with Cam Cameron, the head coach is going to design the philosophy. You will see the Baltimore Ravens attack down the field. Flacco does have the big, strong arm, accurate arm. Now he's got to become the hardest worker on that football team. The quarterback's got to be the hardest worker.
It's very funny that Brian Billick leaves and a new quarterback comes into Baltimore. It's hard to escape that. Let's talk about the other quarterbacks that are sitting out there that people say are in that second group. Flacco, Chad Henne, Michigan, Brian Brohm, Louisville.
Well, in my opinion, it comes down to Chad Henne and Brian Brohm. I mean, you look at Chad Henne and everything that he's done in his career at Michigan, 4-year starter, started 47 games. Give you an indication of how good he can become. Look at the bowl game against Florida where he had a career-high 373 yards passing. In my opinion, I think he has the strongest arm coming out in this year's draft. And then there's Brian Brohm. Brian Brohm has to fit into a West Coast-style out system in the NFL because he doesn't have the big arm. But in my opinion, here's another guy that coming a year ago, last year at this time, Brian Brown was the #1 quarterback. Because he didn't have a great senior year, so all of a sudden, he's declined. In my mind, he's still an outstanding quarterback prospect. I love it.
I agree with you. I project both Brown and Henry to be solid NFL quarterbacks, whoever decides to pick them. But there's a reason they're still available, and we're not talked about as top 10 guys like Matt Ryan was. There are some flaws in their game, and these come up in tape. You know, we talk about, Brown. He's a guy that did not work outside the numbers, the sideline very well. You look at Chad Henne. Yeah, he can make all the throws, but has a tendency to stare down receivers. When you look at tape, these flaws come out. However, these are correctable areas that they can work on. That's why I still project them to be outstanding NFL quarterbacks.
This is your world, but when I watch the NFL, these guys can play and play early in their careers. These quarterbacks in the NFL today are average. These guys.
Wait, well, come on now. Now you.
I know I'm saying. How many great
I will let them.
You don't get that conversation. That you get.
I'll let them continue that conversation in a second. Chris, back up to you.
Too much fun over there. Go to your rooms, you guys, in the corner of Radio City Music Hall. And now, here come the Philadelphia Eagles. One of those teams that were 8-8, but last in their division. A division in which the Giants won the Super Bowl. A division in which the Cowboys had the best record of anybody in the conference at 13-3. A division in which Washington also made the playoffs in a big December. But Philadelphia, with a healthy Donovan McNabb, down the stretch felt they were playing football as well as anybody in December. They, of course, were not a playoff team. They signed Asante Samuel at corner for the Patriots. And, of course, despite the fact they hardly had any takeaway, Ryan Westbrook had the greatest non-touchdown run in the history of the National Football League. Oh, by the way, he had 2,000 yards total receiving and rushing. So the Eagles feel that they can make a run even though they're, quote, fourth place. But we're going to talk about them a while later because they just made a trade. Is it Carolina? So I know that Andy Reid had about 7 names at this point, none which made him jump. And yes, Andy can jump, okay? But none which made him jump, and so he's made a trade with Carolina, which would be quite a slide all the way out there.
Well, with Carolina, you got to be thinking they got to be thinking offensive linemen, which they want to address. But I know Jerry Richardson, their owner, wants to address quarterback too. But offensive lineman is certainly a big area of need.
It's a critical area of need. I think you look at a Travell Wharton situation. You look at the offensive tackle spot in general with the Carolina Panthers. That is a positional need area, and they've already, in this draft, added Jonathan Stewart. So if you want to run the football, there are some guys out there. Who's the one left, Mort?
Jeff Otah, Pittsburgh.
A mauler.
A mauler.
Not a Pittsburgh mauler, but a mauler. But, remember them, don't you?
But, with Carolina, you do have a situation. Jake Delhomme coming off Tommy John surgery. We don't have a lot of experience with guys coming off that type of surgery.
Not in football.
No, Matt Moore, okay, a nice year, undrafted free agent from Oregon State. I know Jerry Richardson, their owner, wants a quarterback at some point.
I wasn't in love with their first pick at all, Mark, but since they traded up to get this pick, I believe they should take a quarterback at this position. You got a receiver like Steve Smith that needs to get back to Pro Bowl form, and the only way he's going to do that is by somebody releasing that football and getting it to him.
Well, here it is. Carolina.
In a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, with the 19th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Jeff Otah, tackle, Pittsburgh.
Large and John Fox type large. Correct, Mel?
6'6" and a quarter, boom, 326 pounds. I think when you look at Jeff Otah, 27 reps at the combine, you're talking about a kid didn't play organized football till his senior year in high school. Then 2 years when you talk about going not into the major college ranks, but rather to Valley Forge Military Academy, then the pick. So here's a kid, a late developing offensive tackle, but light on his feet for a big man. And when you look at technically a little rough around the edges, no overextend at times, but he did a good job. I think the game that made him a mid-first round pick was against Virginia and Chris Long when he more than held his own. That game was in fact in late September. I think from that point on, Jeff Otah became a name that everybody was talking about as one of the top left tackles or right tackles in college football.
It's interesting because this is a big year for John Fox, their head coach. A bubble year for John Fox. He wants to run the football. Jonathan Stewart got a mauler
I'm looking at that grade, an F by the fans. Jeff Otah, we thought all four.
Well, no fan wants anybody to take a tackle.
If I would have nobody, right? But 5 left tackles were expected to go.
Well, they've watched this Carolina Panther offense for the last few years since the Super Bowl, and they see that they can't compete against New Orleans Saints that are emerging. They're in a division that they could still threaten if they could score the points. So yeah, tackles foundational. People want to see Brian Brown, some of the quarterbacks.
You have to get a quarterback. You went out and you got a wide receiver in Musa.
I know it goes without saying, we salute all of them and thank all of them for their tremendous service to our country. Thank you.
Well, now you know what the big roar has been, and it should be. The last few years, they have brought members of all the branches of the military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and everybody here on their feet, the press, fans, players, and us. So, Tampa Bay on the clock.
Initiate instant access.
Miami Dolphins select Jake Long, Sr., Michigan. St. Louis Rams select Chris Long, defensive end, Virginia. The Atlanta Falcons select Matt Ryan, quarterback, Boston College. The Oakland Raiders select Darren McFadden, running back, Arkansas. Kansas City Chiefs select Glenn Dorsey, defensive tackle, LSU. The New York Jets select Vernon Gholston, defensive end, Ohio State.
There are many roads we could have gone down, but only one led to Rocky Mountain Water for a smooth drinking beer. And only one led to High Country Barley for a full-flavored taste. It's the only road we've ever taken. And since 1873, we welcome folks like you to come along for the ride. Coors, the banquet beer.
In the NFL Draft, a great player can be found in any round. Marion Barber, 4th round, number 109.
Tough kid, somebody offensively that can get it done.
Brian Westbrook, 3rd round, number 91.
This is one of my favorite guys here, the little running back from Villanova.
Tom Brady, 6th round, number 199.
Smart, experienced, accurate. It was a very catchable ball.
The draft matters. Go deep. The NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light, continues tonight at 8 on ESPN2.
The road to the finals continues tonight with a doubleheader on ESPN. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen lead the dominating Celtics into Atlanta, looking to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks.
That'll wake the crowd up.
Then at 10:30, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets can level their series with the Jazz in a pivotal Game 4. The NBA playoffs, Celtics Hawks, and Rockets Jazz, tonight on ESPN.
His advice column. Dan is an expert on everything.
Very good column, sir. What else can I do for you? I'd like to see your daughter. Come back in 2 years.
Dad!
But as a single father,
Go now. Okay, stop.
he doesn't have a clue.
Sorry, student driver.
I miss your eyes.
When it comes to the unexpected,
Dad!
nothing beats real life. Steve Carell.
This is gonna cost you. Put it on my tab. What was that? Put it on my tab.
Dad in real life. Rated PG-13.
What your engine feels, you feel. And when it's running clean, you feel it. Which is why we developed Pennzoil Platinum with adaptive molecules. Its active cleansing agents help remove built-up dirt and deposits 3 times better than the leading conventional oil. Pennzoil Platinum Full Synthetic Motor Oil. Our ultimate clean for your ultimate feeling. Not just oil, Pennzoil.
Welcome back to the 2008 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
No, he didn't hate me because he tried to sign me.
All right, so here's the trade that the Eagles and the Panthers make. The Panthers move up to take the Eagles pick and take the huge tackle Jeff Otah. The Eagles receive Carolina's 2, Carolina's 4, and the first-round pick next year. Now you say, what's Carolina do? Well, Indianapolis gave up a 1. They got Tony Hugo. You know, a year ahead of time, he turned out to be their left tackle. So you don't know. But I know that Philly wasn't enamored with names in the middle at this point. And now they get a 1 next year. So you understand the thinking of both sides.
I think that's a little steep. I would not have given up a second or fourth in the first-round pick next year. Jeff Otah, to me, was the 12th best player in this draft room. So he did get value at this point, but he is an offensive tackle, which is what they need. But a second, a fourth, and a first-round pick next year, I couldn't have done it. I value a first-round pick far too much, and that second and fourth in this draft, there is depth at certain positions. I know he's the 12th best player, but I couldn't have done it.
Here's Tampa Bay on the clock, and we're looking at receivers. The bigger fella, Devin Thomas. The smaller fella, Deshaun Jackson. Key, you played for Coach Gruden. He's a fan of size, isn't he?
Yeah, I doubt if it's Deshaun Jackson. Coach Gruden's looking for somebody to replace what he had in the past. Who might that be? A big wide receiver. He's looking for that guy, that Joe Jervicius, that Keyshawn Johnson, even that Kenny McCardell. I think Jackson's a little smallish right now to be in this spot.
But Joey Galloway's smallish, and he's getting up there in age.
Joey Galloway's 200 solid rock pounds.
Right. You don't need two tiny bookends there.
Now we come with the playoff teams. Now we get the playoff teams. The Buccaneers were a team that, they bad year, then they bounced back and win the division. They kind of took a few weeks off, getting everything in order for the playoffs, had a 7-0 lead on the Giants, then took the rest of that game off. However, in defense of the Bucs, the Giants kind of made everybody look foolish in the playoffs, So the Bucs, though, are the defending champs in their division, but they are getting along in the tooth.
Well, the reason why a big wide receiver makes sense here is because this offense that he runs, it's of all the guys that run the elements of the West Coast that have, changed over the years, he still runs the pure form, and you know this. It's the slant. It's being able to get people off your hands and throw that quick route release. Jeff Garcia is phenomenal at that, getting the ball out of his hands. If you give Jeff Garcia a guy that can get open in the first 5 yards, 3rd and 8, can get people off him and get open on a slant in the quick cuts, then I think you got something that can move the chains and get down in the field goal range.
Despite taking off some time right before the playoffs, when they looked at their wide receiver position this past season, they didn't have anybody late in the year. Joey Galloway was their one big play guy. Some of the other guys didn't really pan out. Ike Hilliard, a little long in the tooth, wasn't quite giving them what they need. I think wide receiver at this position, a Devin Thomas type, will probably give them what they need.
Lance, we got to give Bruce Allen and Gruden credit. Boy, they rebuilt that defense in a hurry. Was second ranked last year with a lot of first and second year players. Here's the pick.
With the 20th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Aqib Talib, defensive back, Kansas.
Well, now here's an interesting one. Obviously, talent, and size at corner, there is no question. However, there were on some teams' boards some red flags.
There were, and we'll talk about that, but I think you look at a guy on talent, top 10 guy, best corner in this draft on ability. I put him second because of the off-the-field concerns. Still had him as the 14th best player in this draft. Talk about ball skills. He has it. He made a lot of big plays, 11 interceptions and 36 pass breakups over the last 2 years. You're talking about a guy here, you watch him in coverage, played some wide receiver, played on the offensive side of the ball as well for the Kansas Jayhawks. And I think when you look at Aqib Talib, he doesn't have the great recovery ability, that great catch-up ability. But in a cover 2 system, Mort, with his ball skills, I think this defensive structure suits what Aqib Talib, the system he needs to be in to prosper.
Right, and they said goodbye to Brian Kelly. Rondé Barber's getting up there, and this is a good for Monty Kiffin, the defensive coordinator. This guy fits right in.
Well, Monty Kiffin certainly, again, worked wonders with that defense last year. Now here's Talib. Over to Mike and the gang down below.
Yeah, Chris, here's the deal with Aqib Talib. I feel like I did this with Josh Howard of the Mavericks yesterday, the marijuana update. On April 8th, Pro Football Weekly, they do a very good job of all their reporting. They reported that, according to several league sources, Talib had admitted at the NFL Scouting Combine that he had tested positive for marijuana 3 times while at Kansas. In that magazine report, he said that he told his head coach in college, Mark Mangino at Kansas, that he was going to test positive on one of those tests. The Kansas City Star, newspaper in KC, following up on that story, asked Mangino that. Mangino's quote was, "That's not accurate," that he didn't know from Talib in advance. But Mangino didn't elaborate after that. We do know this, in 2006, and not this season, but a season ago, for disciplinary reasons, the cornerback was suspended for a couple of games. So there's the update on Aqib Talib's story. The Washington Redskins, team that was out in the first round of the playoffs, and has new head coach in Jim Zorn. They're on the clock, and our draft coverage continues live from New York after this.
Sunday Night Baseball, Angels-Tigers, 8 Eastern on ESPN.
going somewhere?
What are you in for? Wi-Fi?
Break free from Wi-Fi with broadband access from Verizon Wireless. Click to connect and work in more spots than just hotspots on America's most reliable wireless broadband network. Now get a free broadband access modem. Monthly plan starting at $39.99. It's reliability to go. Verizon Wireless.
Fuel economy isn't just about the fuel tank. My group is thinking about renewable materials to replace petroleum-based ones in cars. The first time we tried to incorporate soy foam, it basically collapsed. But after many, many formulation changes, we now meet all the specifications for a good automotive foam. Green isn't just about fuel efficiency, it's also about sustainability. I think it's very important to preserve the environment, and I think we need to do it now. I'm Debbie Molesky, and this is the Ford Escape Hybrid. Drive one.
Welcome to Tuscany.
Ready to have a nice dinner?
Today we have the chef's favorites.
The Alfredo's great, actually.
This is perfect.
I love it. Simple and homemade.
Excuse me, if I could have your attention, please.
I didn't do anything tonight. In fact, I didn't even cook.
Pizza Hut delivered the pasta.
I like it even more now.
Introducing new Tuscany pastas. Choose from 2 family-style recipes plus breadsticks for just $11.99. Now get pasta from Pizza Hut.
Enjoy the show.
Visa check card, because every second counts. Life takes action. Life takes Visa.
This Monday night, 2 high-powered offenses in a battle of the undefeated. The showdown down in Philly. Watch Russell Athletic ESPN Arena Football Monday at 8 as the Desperados battle the soul on ESPN2.
Here's a rush. Pass to pass. Hit, sack, fumble, ball on the ground, picked up, Golden, touchdown.
Devastating defeat for the Redskins. New England 52, the Redskins 7.
Redskins safety Sean Taylor died this morning, one day after being gunned down in his Miami home.
Handoff up the middle to Portis, has runner in across 25, breaks the tackle, he's gonna go, touchdown! The Redskins have battled back inspirationally as a team to win 4 straight and head to the playoff.
3 days after his team's playoff loss to Seattle, Joe Gibbs is retiring as coach and team president.
We're very, very excited to introduce the new head coach of the Washington Redskins, Jim Zorn. Thank you.
To them late last year, an inspirational run in memory of Sean Taylor, and of course the locker is still his locker is still the players dressed next to it, and they all wore number 21 as they will this year. He'll never be forgotten, and the Redskins rallied behind him. Joe Gibbs gone. It was an interesting process to get the new head. Jim Zorn was first the offensive coordinator, then waiting for the head coach. Why don't we make Jim Zorn, who'd been quarterback coach under Mike Holmgren with Seattle and an outstanding pro quarterback lefty before that in his playing days with Seattle. He's the new head coach. Interesting to note, as the tribute to Sean Taylor continues, pick number 21. It's the Redskins. Maybe more than an accident. But now here's Jim Zorn to coach. Will this look like a Mike Holmgren team now?
I think it makes you not only look like Mike Holmgren team, it's going to sound like a Mike Holmgren team. Mike Holmgren took what I call the kit from Bill Walsh. He was able to take all the speeches, all the training camp tapes, all the training camp installation tapes, all travel, what schedules. He has it all. And I think he probably gave it to Jim Zorn. And so Jim's got the beginning of training camp speech that Bill used to use to get the team motivated. This is going to be a West Coast offense. Don't be afraid, because the West Coast has matured and a lot of people are running elements of it. But this Jason Campbell's going to be a West Coast type of quarterback. He's going to get the 3-5-step drop, quick release, and have to be very accurate and very on time.
I will just go back to the night that they hired Jim Zorn. Dan Snyder actually told me, he says, Mike Holmgren, look at his quarterback coaches, whether they be John Gruden, Steve Mariucci, and Andy Reid. Those guys come in and they are very successful. They are looking for a big receiver, certainly. They're looking for a pass rush defensive end, but Mel, as you know, they also would love to trade back here and pick up a couple more extra picks, which is unique for the Redskins.
Getting back to what the Redskins do best, and Vinny Cerrato, the general manager, evaluating talent very effectively throughout his career in the NFL. And I think when you get back to having 9 draft choices, something new for the Washington Redskins. There's depth at a variety of positions in this draft, and I think for the Redskins at 21, can they move out of there? If they're sitting here, the one player that's on the board now, we thought about him at 11. Well, he's there still, is Devin Thomas, the wide receiver from Michigan State. And I'll tell you, talented kid. You know, you talk about coming in, one-year wonder and all that, but this is about the time of the draft where he's no longer that reach, he's no longer that risk-reward situation. Now he becomes a pretty good pick for somebody.
You know, the Redskins have 9 picks at 4 in the first 3 rounds. This is a different era for the Washington Redskins, isn't it? Not only, I mean, they used to, future is now, you know. So the Redskins, a playoff team, all the momentum last December. I think Jim Zorn will do very well still.
Well, the toughest division in football, so it's not easy to say, oh, everything's going to go peachy keen.
Right.
At the end of the day, they're going to have to score some points in that division to do well.
Well, Atlanta's on the clock. Now, here's a trade. Now, originally, Atlanta was going to move up here because I figured they wouldn't get Ryan, so here's a quarterback.
That's right.
I feel strongly that it's not going to be a quarterback, but let's see.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, you talk about reaches and what's going to go on at this point in the draft, you tend to get them. So all I say is you got to be concerned about reaching for a player that maybe didn't perform up to the level of a first-round pick.
Well, we'll see. Atlanta now moves in here. And I can assume that Washington doesn't move, you know, they move back to get another second, which is very early in the round with Atlanta having one of the worst records last year.
Who's dynamic enough for them to go get? Because Atlanta has to address a lot of needs. And well,
this would have been the spot had you taken Glenn Dorsey, where you move back in and you take a quarterback.
Exactly. That's what I was saying.
They got that Matt Ryan, so the quarterback issue is gone. You're talking about Devin Thomas, a wide receiver on the board. But I tell you what, this is a point in the draft where you start to get reaches, and that's the way it is in the NFL draft. Teams
need a corner too,
and take a guy that we don't project as a first-round draft choice.
How about Cam Cameron taking over this draft? I need a receiver. Give me somebody.
The Washington Redskins traded their pick, the 21st pick in the 2008 NFL Draft. The Atlanta Falcons select Sam Baker, offensive tackle, USC.
When Jeff Otah went off the board, I turned to Mel and said, Sam Baker just made himself a lot of money because he moved up that board.
It's a prophetic comment, but you talk about reaches, and I said this is the point in the draft where be careful. We talk about projections. Sam Baker, going into the year, I thought would be a mid-first round pick. He didn't play to that level. Why? Because he had some injury issues this season. A hamstring injury, missed 3 games. You know, so and some others. Played left tackle, but you see the short arms here. Left tackle, can he handle those great defensive ends, rushing the passer with short arms? Probably have to move inside to guard or be a right tackle. So you're talking about a pick here for a guy may end up being an inside guy or shift to right tackle. I think if you look at the Senior Bowl practice, that wasn't his best performance, but as a junior, he showed well. So you're rolling the dice that when he's healthy, he can revert back to his junior form more, but he did not play this year to the level of a first round pick.
But what has Atlanta done this offseason? They went out and got Michael Turner, free agent running back from the Chargers, gave him a lot of money. Mike Mularkey wants to run the football. Mike Smith, their head coach, wants to run it, throw it downfield. Then you get a quarterback in Matt Ryan. So this serves 2 purposes. A blocker for Michael Turner, and certainly somebody who can at least help protect Matt Ryan, part of the building blocks.
You wonder why Sam Baker is such a big guy? You know the arena ball commissioner.
Sure.
Dave Baker. One of the largest. He's large.
Hey,
this is his son.
No plane can hold Dave Baker.
Okay, so we have the Dallas Cowboys with the first of their 2 first-round picks coming up. But first, let's go quickly to Atlanta. Rachel Nichols on why this move was made. Rachel.
Well, Boomer, we talked about this on the pre-draft show. Once it became obvious that they were going to go with Matt Ryan here in Atlanta, the question became, do they have enough guys to protect him, and that they may have to move up to draft someone, and that's exactly what they did. They are very thin on the offensive line here. They've been moving bodies around, guys into different positions. This is to help bolster that, especially on that side. One thing, however, that's interesting, GM Thomas Dimitroff told me earlier today, this offensive line has been criticized up and down all week. People saying that we have a need here. We do have a need here, but that being said, we are going to show this video to our guys from this draft week. They intend to have an angry offensive line and now a bolstered offensive line. Let's go over to Ed Werder and the Cowboys with the next pick.
Well, Rachel, the opportunity to move up and get Darren McFadden that Jerry Jones may have hoped for never materialized. He went off the board at 4, but the rest of the board has fallen pretty well for the Cowboys, whose priorities are cornerback, running back, and wide receiver. Let's see where we stand on the scorecard. They can get the 4th best corner, they can get the 3rd runner, and there have been no receivers taken. They like at corner Mike Jenkins. Jerry Jones has said even though they made the Pac-Man Jones trade, they are going to behave and make decisions as if they don't have him because he hasn't been reinstated and they don't know if or when he'll be available to play. At running back, they want somebody to take some carries, 15, as many as 10 or 15 carries a game away from Marion Barber, the Pro Bowler, who'll be making his first start in the NFL in a regular season. He's a punishing runner, so they could go with a speed complement like Felix Jones, or they could go with Rashard Mendenhall. I'm told by some people in the organization that the Cowboys had him rated as the 2nd best running back on the board behind McFadden. He's more of an every down type player, so if Barber holds out or plays for the 1-year tender, gets hurt, the Cowboys have another option. And then, Boomer, as far as wide receivers go, Devin Thomas obviously expected to go much earlier in this draft. I was told yesterday by Jerry Jones that they don't believe that there's a rookie wide receiver who can come in and play opposite Terrell Owens and put up the kind of numbers that they believe they could get from Terry Glenn, even though Glenn missed every regular season game after having off-season knee surgery twice last year.
All right, Ed, thank you very much. Number 22 and number 28, first-round picks for the Dallas Cowboys. Doesn't Jerry Jones from Arkansas look at Felix Jones from Arkansas? I mean, it's just too neat. We'll be back.
Hey, Greeny, Golick. It's me, Chad. I listen every day.
All right, thank you.
Sometimes it's like we finish each other's sentences.
Well, I don't know if we finish each other's sentences.
Huh?
Well,
all right.
We gotta go. Yeah. Have a
nice day.
You can sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
Old Spice is the bare knuckle, straight arm tackle, heavyweight deodorant that gives the best game, set, and match, high step and sudden death, double overtime performance in the pit fight against odor.
Safe!
From odor, thanks, Old Spice.
We need guys. No, I know. We're running low, guys. Seriously. Look right there. 319. Good. Okay. Bam! 316 right there. Oh, yeah.
$1.
Win!
Huh?
Right on the money.
The Doubly Yummy Double Cheeseburger. One of the many brilliant choices you can find on a dollar menu.
Dude, you're not a rock star push, man. Help!
Coach! He took my last Cold Coors Light.
That's when you're going to have a psychological letdown.
Coach, what do you think of this new vented wide-mouth can?
I'm very pleased that anything that might come out of it would be a positive thing.
Hey, Coach, in one word, what makes the vented can special?
Flow, F-L-O-W.
The new vented wide-mouth can. It lets in air for a smooth, refreshing pour.
Coach, it says here that too much hairspray makes your follicles dry and brittle.
Well, that would be the big concern that I would have.
Yeah, well, it really should. Okay.
Fact is, sports fans are switching to DirecTV because they have hands down the most sports in HD.
What we need is a distraction. Wow! Look who's right on time. Anywhere between 10 and 2, it's Cable's Bikini Installers.
This is crazy.
I know. How has no one thought of this yet?
For sports and games you can't get with cable, call 1-800-DIRECTV.
Scott Reese in our Sports Center studios. Just want to remind you that over on ABC, you can check out nationwide series action. The Aaron's 312 at Talladega. Coming down to the wire, about 25 laps to go. Tony Stewart is your leader. Now let's get you back to Boomer in New York.
All right, Scotty, thank you very much. Now let's take a look at the best available presented by Hummer. And if you're talking in the running back category, Rashard Mendenhall, the workhorse running back from Illinois. And Felix Jones, the speedster, the guy that averages just a ton every clip, running the ball for Arkansas in tandem with McFadden. But it's interesting, in a fan poll, the Cowboys, and there are many Cowboy fans, they should not tab Felix Jones. Well, that's what the fans say. The Cowboys have spoken.
A lot of Redskins fans voted.
Huh? Redskins. Here's the commissioner with the first of 2 first-round picks for the Cowboys. How about them Cowboys?
With the 22nd pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Felix Jones, running back, Arkansas.
Told you, just too neat. Kirk, it's just too neat. Jones, Arkansas, picking Jones, Arkansas, Kirk.
Boom, you've been talking about that for the last couple of days, how that'd be a great fit. What a home run hitter. This guy took a back seat all year, of course, to Darren McFadden. He's electrifying in the backfield. I think he has the ability to help out as well on special teams. I think people are going to be surprised to see. Jaws and I were just talking. I think people will see a lot of Marion Barber, similar size, similar determination. Also, when he gets into the open field, not only does he make people miss, he runs right by them. So I think a bit of an unknown because of all the hype with Darren McFadden, but without any mistake, he can help you in every situation because of his ability to catch the ball in the backfield, and he'll surprise you with his ability to run between the tackles.
I agree with you, Kirby, about Felix Jones. We've had him to Dallas for the last 3 months, basically. You see his kick return ability here. A freshman All-American in that area, averaged 31.9 yards per return. You do the math. That assists field position in the NFL with Tony Romo, big time. Talk about Jerry Jones' connection with Arkansas. You talk about the tandem with Darren McFadden. Now he's with Marion Barber, a pounder. And you look at a guy like Felix Jones, averaged over 9 yards a carry this season, averaged 7.6 yards a carry as a junior, as a sophomore. That led the SEC board, and you know this kid very well.
Well, all I can do is I had this discussion with Jerry Jones at the Senior Bowl, and he thought Felix Jones with Marion Barber would be a near-perfect tandem and the kick returner.
The only guy in the history of football, college football, Mr. Outside, Glenn Davis, with Army in the war years, averaged more per carry than Felix Jones.
It's a pretty good 1-2 punch for them. You lose Julius Jones, you pick up another Jones. Not only that, he can return kicks. They lose Tyson Thompson through free agency. Now, this guy can return kicks, so they get 2 things for the price of 1.
Can you imagine if they have Felix Jones returning kicks, and if for some reason Pac-Man Jones is on their team?
To that yet.
That's a punt returner. So,
and they can always pick up a wide receiver.
Pushing the envelope. They're pushing the envelope, aren't they? They have another first-round pick coming up. Rashard Mendenhall, running back, Illinois. It's got to be soon for him. When we return, Steelers on the clock.
Personal foul? Inactive activities on a glorious day. Huh? Let's get out there and play! Sweet.
Ooh, freeze!
When do I get to be in? Uh-oh. Hey, Reggie, frozen people can't talk. P-L-A-Y. An hour a day.
I'm in. There are lots of great play ideas online, but don't stay too long. 1951, shot heard around the world. I was there.
I'd just gotten back from the concession stand as Thompson steps up to the plate. And Kruk said, "Where's Hershiser?" I told him, "He went to get the hot sauce." So he said, "What?" "He went to get the hot sauce." He said, "What?" So I shouted, "He's bringing the heat." Bam! He hit that thing like he knew it was coming.
The road to the finals continues tonight with a doubleheader on ESPN. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen lead the dominating Celtics into Atlanta, looking to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks.
Wow, that'll wake the crowd up.
Then at 10:30, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets can level their series with the Jazz in a pivotal Game 4. The NBA playoffs, Celtics Hawks and Rockets Jazz, tonight on ESPN.
The Lenovo ThinkPad has a magnesium alloy roll gauge, making it one of the very strongest notebooks out there. We just wanted to remind you, we have brains, too. Protect your ideas. Lenovo ThinkPad, powered by Intel Centrino with vPro, ultra durability and performance.
A lot of people are like, aren't you too young to invest in the markets? And, you know, A, don't worry about it. I mean, you don't know how old I am. And B, I use E-Trade, so check it. Click. I just bought stock. You just saw me buy stock. No big deal. I mean, you know, if I can do it, you can do it. Whoa.
It's so easy. Trades from $6.99 to $9.99. There are 1,000 new accounts a day at E-Trade.
Welcome back to the 2008 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
Back in New York, Pittsburgh Steelers on the clock moments ago. They announced
with the 23rd pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Pittsburgh Steelers select Rashard Mendenhall, running back, Illinois.
You know, he lasted a lot longer than a lot of folks thought, Mel. I mean, they have Willie Parker, but maybe between the tackles they thought they needed someone with a little more between the tackle runner. I don't know.
I think what it is, it's a luxury pick for a team that can afford to do that. I had 10th on the board. You're talking about all the way down here at 23. So a team that can afford to go away from needs. They didn't have a lot going into this draft, and get a guy that can help out, as you say, Willie Parker, and gives you the ability, I believe, to play at a very high level at that running back spot. People say, well, he's a one-year wonder. Well, 2 years ago, he had some yards running the football, 640 yards, average 8 yards a carry, and against Penn State that year, 14 carries, 162 yards. So he wasn't just a guy who put up numbers this year. He had a decent sophomore year. This year exploded, carried the ball a ton. You're talking about a difference of 136 more than his first 2 seasons combined. Carried the ball this year 262 times. He, that Illinois team that went to the Rose Bowl, Juice Williams, the quarterback, got him wide on some pitches. But I look at a guy like Rashard Mendenhall, caught the ball effectively, great against USC. That game made that kid an elite prospect in this draft, and I think he slid down a lot further than he really should have. As I said, Boom, I had him 10th overall on the board.
Well, the Pittsburgh Steelers spent a lot of money, over $100 million, to ink Ben Roethlisberger. They're kind of betwixt and between on offense, but you're right, the 1-2 punch. They also have Mewelde Moore. Now, if you're, you know, for a draft in which the first 6 players all in the green room went bang, 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 we've still had 9 trades in the first 23 picks. I know you don't want to keep track of this stuff, Steve, but 15 is the record. We had to run an offensive lineman. We've had 3 players key from USC. We had a couple from Virginia go high as expected. Defensive linemen went in a roll, and then that's been quieted down. Now remember, we still got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 picks left here in the first round. So that's what's happened thus far. So now let's set up the Tennessee Titans. The Steelers were quick there. Tennessee Titans, under Vince Young, showed a lot of moxie. I mean, maybe himself, he would like to play a little differently. But the Titans at 10-6 made the playoffs. They gave San Diego all they can handle before the Chargers went on a roll. And now maybe it's time for Vince Young, with Heimerdinger back, the old offensive coordinator from the McNair days, to help them.
You have to set the contracts for the Tennessee Titans. They're in a division where you're going to need to score the points. I think Houston's going to score more points for the offense that they're putting together, and I think the Tennessee Titans with Vince Young can no longer just go to win 13-10, and I think that speaks to this pick. You've got to get Vince Young a weapon, or else you're not going to see the true Vince Young. Devin Thomas here, Lima Sweet, his old teammate from Texas. I can't imagine that you're not going to give a chance for Vince Young to have somebody that can say, hey, I can go score some points.
Also need defensive linemen, Steve.
Well, they need a lot of things.
They don't need a ton. Defensive end and defensive tackle are needs as well, along with wide receiver Devin Thomas. So this is a team that at this point, Devin Thomas could have gone 11 and would have said, slight reach. But here at the latter portion of the first round, for a team that doesn't have any weapons for Vince Young.
I think it's falling right to him. It's going to be a great pick.
There he is.
Well,
There's Devin Thomas.
And listen, the Heat's, if they don't get Vince some playmakers, and I'm sure they will with this draft, the criticism is going to start to fall on him big time because he's gotten an offensive coordinator fired, if you want to say that. Norm Chow gets an extension in December, gets fired in January. Mike Heimerdinger will take off the kid gloves, but that offensive scheme may fit very well with Vince, but it doesn't work if you don't have weapons around him.
And that's why they need to get the weapons. They tried to come and get me. They got some receivers last year. This year, they didn't get any last year. Now it's time to get a guy like Devin Thomas. Here's a guy.
Who's the best receiver on
the best pure receiver is Thomas out of Michigan State.
Although on their team right now.
Oh, God.
Rodale Williams. You like them coming out of the lane.
Thomas goes in immediately.
Number one guy.
Thomas goes in immediately and becomes a starter, becomes a favorite target of Vince Young. Vince Young needs a wide receiver.
Vince Young has done everything you can ask from a young quarterback to put himself in a position to be a great quarterback. He's managed through all the learning processes. Yeah, you say he's got an offensive coordinator fired, but the truth is we're not going to find out who Vince Young truly is without some help. Absolutely. And you're right. If he doesn't get the help, it'll start to fall back on him, even though it's not his fault that he can't get it done.
You don't want to do that to him, though, Steve.
No, you've got to get somebody
Justin Gage is not the answer for Vince Young. I know that in this offense with Heimerdinger, they had tight ends in the past. Maybe they grab a tight end, but I think it's a wide receiver in this position.
They did sign Algie Crumpler in the offseason.
Yes.
From Falcons. If Algie can become what he used to be, a Pro Bowl guy. Now,
there's no question in my mind he can.
That's a good sign. That's a huge pickup.
You know, Algie Crumpler has a lot of football left in him. I think with you get Devin Thomas, Algie Crumpler, now Vince Young, you don't have any more excuse. Now you got to grow.
Lyman Sweet would be a great addition to this offense as well. He hurt his wrist during the season, but he did try to come back in the Senior Bowl. He played tough, so that tells me he has some toughness there. But the one thing that I think that they need, they have some underneath things in a running game. They can run the football, but they need a guy like Devin Thomas. I don't know how hard I got to hit it home.
They're hoping their fans will enjoy that Javon Curse is back, McCarron's is back, Heimerdinger's back. I mean, admittedly, McNair is not back, but they got Vince Young. But some of the old names of Titans glory past, if you will. There's Super Bowl and playoff team. So they're back. So they know some of those names. But he needs help. You're right. In that division, there's another division in which 8-8 was last place. So Tennessee to make playoffs at 10-6. You've got Indy, you got Jacksonville up ahead, and improving Houston. You're right. You got to
look at this formula, Chris. This is the same formula that they had with McNair, where they said, you know what, we're going to sit him down a little bit. Then they started to play McNair, but then they eventually started to get help around him, the Eddie Georges. There's no Eddie George on this football team, but then they went out and got some receivers, got Mason and some of those guys, Wycheck at the tight end position. So, it's just a matter of what they need at this point, this wide receiver.
On my list, I have an ink pen, and I wrote down Devin Thomas. I can't erase it. Let's find out.
Well, let's see. The Titans have made their pick. See, Steve, how good your penmanship is.
Malcolm Kelly.
Gotcha.
With the 24th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, Tennessee Titans select Chris Johnson, running back, East Carolina.
Well then, Steve, the ink eraser.
I need the ink eraser.
Boom, fifth highest rated running back. The other four are off the board. Now you say, okay, they have Thunder, Glendale White, now you got a little lightning. And that's the thing with Christian. This kid can fly, one of the fastest players really at any position in this draft. And for Skip Holtz, East Carolina had a nice year. This kid was a game breaker supreme, and he catches the ball down the field very effectively. Not just those swing passes and screen passes. He can adjust down the field like a wide receiver. You see him here, look at it. Look how he separates in the open field. I mean, this kid has blazing speed, was productive as a kickoff returner as well. You watch him here in the open field. Now, I would like to see as a running back, less dancing and a little bit more decisive running. But I'll tell you what, he was productive running, catching, and as a kickoff returner, the fan grade of an F, like I said, you got a complimentary guy to Lendale White. Can you count on Lendale White year in, year out to be productive?
Was he the fastest at the combine?
I mean, you're talking about a kid who ran a 4.24. 4.24. Vertical, it would have been 37 inches. Had a good all-purpose back. As I said, I gave him a slight edge over Ray Rice. And for the last 2 weeks, we've been raving about Ray Rice. What a great back Ray Rice from Rutgers is going to be, probably as a second-round pick. Chris Johnson, I had slightly ahead of Ray Rice. So this is a good football player. Yeah, I think it's a little high, okay? You could have said, well, trade down. Maybe they didn't have an offer to trade down. But like I said, Thunder with Lendale White, Lightning with Chris Johnson, and the versatility like Felix Jones to be a good kickoff returner for you.
So this pick tells me they're just going to hand the football off now. They're not going to let Vince Young throw the ball.
Well, there's other rounds in this draft, King.
Mike Heimerdinger, the new offensive coordinator, is bringing that zone blocking scheme that they've had in Denver. You hit the creases, you hit the crease in that offense, then you got a chance to be gone. And this kid's got that kind of speed. And Mike Munchak, their offensive line coach, is one heck of a line coach. So that is something they're going to, and Vince is going to play off that.
I'd like to see Vince Young throw the football.
Go back to my original comment. In this division, you're not going to be able to win the division 13-10. Now, they did a nice job of protecting Vince in the first couple of years and got a lot of wins that way. I don't believe that you can continue that formula. I think you've got to open it up, and Vince Young's going to have to throw your way to some big wins. Hey, I wrote it in pen. I was wrong. What are you going to do?
They had the game of the year last year with Houston, when Coronas kicked 8 million field goals. Last year, Calvin Johnson went right away wideout. No wideouts yet. Seattle on the clock.
The NFL Draft on ESPN. Whose stock will rise? Who will fall? Who fits your team's profile? The draft matters. Go deep. The NFL Draft continues tonight at 8 on ESPN2.
Coors Light. It's a frost-brewed beer. It's a beer brewed down as cold as 34 degrees. Aged cold. Filtered cold. Put into bottles, cans, and kegs. Cold. Why? We know you like cold beer. So ask for a beer with a taste as cold as the Rockies. Because refreshment isn't everything. It's the only thing. Frost-brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
DirecTV is doing very well in customer satisfaction. What do we do?
I learned this in business school when I read about business school in a book. We can't improve our service, but we can improve the price. We can make it higher.
You know what? That's not a bad idea.
We'll get the people with disposable income, and they can dispose of it to us.
And they don't watch TV. They're workaholics.
They wouldn't know HD if they'd sat in their lap and called them mama.
Get more TV for your money. Call 1-800-DIRECTV.
Disciplined investing. It isn't about star fund managers. At Zero Price, it's about experienced investment teams that stay the course. For each 3, 5, and 10-year period, over 70% of our mutual funds beat their Lipper average. Low-cost mutual funds from T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Request a complete prospectus or profile with investment objectives, risks, fees, expenses, and other information to read and consider carefully before investing.
Welcome, Sean Fanning. It's great to have you on.
Well, it's great to be here.
Sean, you're the guy, right? You're the guy that invented the internet free music sharing, and people love that.
Well, you're bringing clean diesel cars to all 50 states.
Oh, stop it, Sean. You brought free music to the world, and they love that.
Well, you're bringing clean diesel cars. I think people will love that, too.
Yes, but your thing is cooler.
Well, your thing is legal, and trust me, legal is cooler.
This place is great. So many cute guys here. Mm-hmm. Do you smell bacon? Oh, yeah. It's a bacon club chalupa. Guys love bacon.
Like, that's really gonna work. Come on.
Hi. Hey. How's it going?
Hi.
What is that you're wearing? It's intoxicating.
Taco Bell's Bacon Club Chalupa is back. Bacon lovers rejoice.
Smells good.
You can get all the latest news and video highlights of this weekend's draft if you go to NFL.com/draft. 25, the Seattle Seahawks on the clock. 3 minutes to their selection in this streamlined first round, but still it has not taken away the team's abilities to make trades, as Chris was talking about a moment ago. And guys, here we are sitting on pick 24 already in the books, 25 on the clock. no wide receivers taken. If you go back a couple of years ago, Santonio Holmes was taken in this spot, 25 overall in 2006. It's the last time we've waited this long to have a receiver taken. 1990, we had no receivers taken in the first round. Maybe teams are learning that wide receiver rookie who comes in does not make that immediate impact on your football team.
Yeah, they normally don't, Mike. And also, when I studied this group of wide receivers, myself personally, I did not see a guy that projected as a #1 draft choice. You know, and when you look as a #1, you want a complete wide receiver, a receiver that can go deep, you know, catch the short pass and turn into a long run. I didn't see any of those types of explosive players. You know, you may have seen the great speed of Deshaun Jackson. You may have seen the possession routes of Elias Swede, the speed cuts of a number of other receivers. However, I did not see the one guy that jumped out and say, wow, this is going to be a difference maker.
I think Deshaun Jackson, of all the receivers out there, is the most electrifying wide receiver with the football in his hands as a punt returner, as a wide receiver catching the intermediate short pass. He can take it to the house. But I think of all the receivers out there that I'm keeping an eye on, guy that nobody's talking about, Early Doucette at LSU. 6 feet tall, 208 pounds, had an injury all year this year that kind of kept him off the radar. If he's healthy, in my opinion, he's the most gifted, most natural wide receiver of the entire bunch, and he's physical and versatile receiver. I'm assuming he's healthy. So I know there are flaws on all of them.
No, and I like Early Doucette. In fact, after you study him and watch him, he's going to be kind of one of those, maybe to give you an NFL example, like Keenan McCardell. The guy's going to play a long time, have a very solid career. When he's done, you can say, oh, yeah, I remember him. But he will be a productive NFL receiver.
Without a doubt. Of course, like cold, hard facts on the wide receivers and those not being taken, those of you who have logged on to ESPN.com, and your thoughts on who should be taken. As the Dallas Cowboys have just traded into this spot, you think that a Texan, Limas Sweed of Texas, should be the #1 guy, followed by Devin Thomas, who in some of the plethora of mock drafts was as high as 11 to Buffalo and still sits around and waits. But the Cowboys, who have long-in-the-tooth wide receivers, perhaps could be looking to trade up to get a wide receiver here. Dallas has made their pick at 25 overall, with Houston now sliding in on the clock. And we talk about Dallas and so much of the conversation they've had. Chris, let's see what they do at this pick, 25 overall.
All right, Mike, so the Cowboys keeping their second first-round pick. We'll get the details of that trade. Seattle sliding down just a few slots. Dallas trying to push the envelope on a team that went 13-3 last year, on a team with 13 Pro Bowlers, which is an unbelievable number. Although, I'm reminded of something Marv Levy told me a long time ago. I want Super Bowl players, not Pro Bowl players. And so whither the Cowboys.
You make a nice point, though, because in the playoffs they wilted. They had all the elements, all the players. They had the quarterback now. They had the home field advantage. They had all the things that you'd want, and they had the Giants come to town and take them down. And I think that speaks to the will of a Super Bowl kind of player rather than Pro Bowl player. That's a perfect way to say it, Boomer.
And with Dallas jumping up here, you know, Ed Werder mentioned earlier that Mike Jenkins, the South Florida cornerback, was somebody they were looking at, and San Diego's picking right behind him here, also looking for a cornerback. So it's got to be a corner or a receiver. I'm thinking the corner.
Don't write anything.
Did you write it in pen?
Yeah, don't write it.
Write it in pen.
In a trade from the Seattle Seahawks, with the 25th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Mike Jenkins, defensive back, South Florida.
Well, he was clearly next.
Well, I think what helped Jenkins get to this point where the Cowboys could take Felix Jones and then get Mike Jenkins is that the corners fell a little bit. Aqib Talib went where Mike Jenkins was projected to go to Tampa, and that pushed Jenkins down a little bit more. And he talked about San Diego more. Right, cornerback was a need for them. Jenkins had a good year, not a spectacular year. Looked great against Auburn, smooth in transition, and he has the best hands of any of the corners. A wide receiver hand for a cornerback, I prefer. I know dropped interceptions to me is a turnover against that team, and you watch number 4 against Auburn this year, he put on a show. Now, the rest of the year wasn't quite to that level, but here's a kid at this particular juncture of the first round, the 4th best corner on the board, slightly ahead of Brandon Flowers from Virginia Tech, Charles Godfrey from Iowa, Justin King from Penn State, Tracy Porter from Indiana, and Orlando Scandrick from Boise State. Those are the next cornerbacks coming off the board. And for Mike Jenkins, a great opportunity in Dallas where Terrence Newman's the standout, the lead corner. Now Mike Jenkins has an opportunity more to contribute as a rookie.
And they're moving Anthony Henry to safety, we think.
So, Jen, we're just trying to get the trade over our shoulders here, but The Cowboys have made the move for the corner. Let's go down to Dallas and Ed Werder. Ed?
Well, Boomer, this is the 20th Cowboys draft for Jerry Jones as owner and general manager. Wade Phillips, his second as the head coach. And I think they filled the two needs they really felt like they had to address in the first round of this draft, and that was getting Felix Jones as a running back, the speed alternative, threaten the outside with him, let Marion Barber pound people inside. And then at cornerback, you know, if you look at their situation, Terrence Newman's going to be 30 years old this year. He made the Pro Bowl for the first time. He's unsigned. They're trying to negotiate a contract with him right now. Anthony Henry, like Newman, they missed 11 combined starts last year. He's 32 years old, and there is a possibility that he plays more inside now. Pac-Man Jones. So they really wanted to fortify that position, primarily because they have a lot of age among their starters, and they can't trust Pac-Man Jones. They know that much right now, Boomer.
All right, Ed, thank you. So we'll stay in the Lone Star State. Dallas has selected Houston, the third team to occupy this 26th slot here. The Texans are next, followed by the Chargers, and then the Seahawks. We'll be back.
This Monday night, two high-powered offenses in a battle of the undefeated. The Showdown, Dallas-Philly. Watch Russell Athletic ESPN Arena Football Monday at 8 as the Desperados battle the soul on ESPN2.
Hey, what's going on? Oh, good, you're here. Can you watch this package for me? It needs to get to my best customer today, but I'm going to be out making sales calls, so I can't track it. I gotta go.
Wait, hold on. If you ship with UPS, you can get text updates on your cell phone or your PDA. Cool. Yeah, so while you're running around town, you'll never lose sight of your package. It's not just your small business, it's your wireless small business with UPS. Didn't you have a meeting?
When you're on the go, you need a one-handed snack with a two-handed taste. Wendy's new Chicken Go Wraps. They're not strips like some other wraps. They're made with only tender center-cut chicken breast in home-style, spicy, or grilled, each just $1.49. It's way better than fast food. It's Wendy's. Now eat way better, way later.
I put people in cars that don't yet exist. No other car company marries the virtual and physical worlds together like Ford. What we're doing allows us to literally see through the eyes of any driver. Now let's do that same reach as a small female.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a different experience. We can look around and evaluate any part of the vehicle. And Ford's quality is now equal with Toyota. Quality is about finding solutions before they're problems. I'm Elizabeth Barron, and this is the Ford Fusion. Drive one.
Cobalt tools are so comfortable, you just don't want to quit working.
What are you doing up there, Jimmy? Welding, Chad?
Cobalt, the next generation of tough tools. Available exclusively at Lowe's.
In the studio with your Sports Center right now. We begin north of the border, where the Magic beat the Raptors 106-94 to take a 3-1 series lead. This despite 39 and 15 from Chris Bosh. Rashard Lewis 27 in the Orlando victory. More NBA news. The Bobcats fire Sam Vincent. Part owner Michael Jordan dismissed the head coach less than a year after he gambled by giving Vincent his first NBA head coaching job. And on the ice, the Wings take a 2-0 series lead against the Avs with a 5-1 victory. The star here, Johan Franzen, his first career hat trick. All your details on SportsCenter, 11 Eastern on ESPN2. Stay current with ESPN News. Boom.
All right, Scotty, thank you very much. Just a moment ago, Houston made their selection with the
in a trade with the Baltimore Ravens. With the 26th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Houston Texans select Duane Brown, tackle, Virginia Tech.
And Mel, that's about, I mean, Houston's a team that's coming. I mean, again, 8-8, although that was last place in the division, they're on the move. They weren't so foolish with Mario Williams a couple of years ago, were they? And then Brown is late one. It is about the spot, right?
Exactly. I think you look at Ephraim Salaam at the left tackle spot, replaceable. You have Eric Winston at right tackle. So Duane Brown played both right tackle as a junior, moved to left tackle with very good results this past season. Keep in mind, he was a tight end and a defensive end in high school. He was a track guy. Talk about a guy, it's a shot put, did a nice job in high school, also played basketball. Tight end initially, converted to offensive line early on at Virginia Tech. I thought as a pass blocker, athletically gifted, run blocking, something he needs to work on. But I think when you look at the left tackle spot for Houston, they've been trying to solidify this spot really since they came into the NFL more. They haven't been able to do it. You have Eric Winston at right tackle. You're solid there. Now you had Duane Brown. I had him ahead of Gosder Cherilus and Sam Baker, and behind Jeff Otah, sandwiched between those guys. So, two guys that already went, I had him after Duane Brown. So you say, is it a reach? No, not based on where he was grading out. The mock first rounds didn't have him in there. I had him in early second, but in terms of rating, like I said, ahead of two guys already selected.
Well, now come the San Diego Chargers. And everything that everybody was sure to say last year, what are they doing? What's General Manager A.J. Smith doing? What's Norv Turner doing? As they stumbled out of the gates, we didn't know what they would show, but nevertheless, they showed their moxie in the playoffs when they went into Indy and beat the Colts, and with a depleted team had a chance to beat the Patriots in Foxborough. The underachieving Chargers, no more, were an outstanding team in January despite everybody being hurt. And by the way, this is their only pick to the 5th round, so better tune in. Michael Turner is now a Falcon. The surgeries went well. LaDainian didn't really have surgery, that's rest. Antonio Gates, a big question. Toe surgery, that reportedly went well. ACL surgery, Phillip Rivers, Marcus McNeil lineman, a scope on Merriman. Jamal Williams had scopes. The center Nick Hardwick had a foot. So despite all of this, the San Diego Chargers were knocking at the door, Mort, key, at getting to the Super Bowl last year, and things changed, and our vision of the Chargers had to change.
Well, you know what? You had the transitioning offensive coach, and head coach, and you got Norv Turner, and it took some time. And then you saw them catch their wind about mid-season, and ended up to be a playoff team. You can only suspect that as long as everybody is healthy, that they can now take that end of the season run and continue on this season, score plenty of points, and that now takes my mind to their defense. What can they do to shore up that defense? I see safety. I see Tyrell Johnson out there. What other thoughts?
But listen, LaDainian Tomlinson, yes, he's supposed to be okay, but they lost Michael Turner, the backup running back to him, and they're going to have to address it. And these running backs came off the board here pretty quick. They need a corner to help beef up the secondary, certainly. But
that's what they're doing, I think. Because they lost their
Drayton Florence. They lost Drayton Florence.
2008 NFL Draft. The San Diego Chargers select Antoine Cason, defensive back, Arizona.
Well, there it is, because the establishment of Cromartie at one corner and the play that he made, and then Jammer, the other corner. So they're coming, but they needed their third corner. And Mel, here it is.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, he played a lot of football in the Pac-10 and had a lot of experience, and I think you expected him to keep progressing, and when he would leveled off a bit, kind of wonder if he was, just a second-round pick or a third-round pick. But I tell you, you watch him against some very good corners, held his own, decent, not great catch-up speed. That was the question. He's probably a 4.52, 4.55 guy, but I think when you look at the experience in the Pac-10, a guy that I think when you look at the overall skill level, 20 reps, strong kid, he'll support the run, pretty good leaping ability, very confident kid, very experienced. I did have Brandon Flowers and Justin King from Penn State ahead, so I gave it a C+ grade for a kid that I did project in the first-round projection I did 2 days ago to the Green Bay Packers late in round 1. So the kid had moved up. I think when people look at his consistency over a 4-year period and like what they saw.
Go ahead, Mort.
Well, and I read notes here on the guy. You see mentally tough. You see high character, one of the best character guys in this draft. Some punt return ability, not like great, but good ball skills, smart, and it blitzes a lot off the corner, and it seems to fit what Ted Cottrell, the defense coordinator of the Chargers, might do.
Look, here's why they don't pick the next few picks, and here's a way to, you see the team make a pick for next year's draft, and oh boy, should they do that? Well, they used the 2 for Chris Chambers, middle of the year, and that's going to pay big dividends. They used a 3 to move up to take Eric Weddle last year, who had a big play at the end of the playoff game against the Colts. And Paul Oliver was a supplemental pick, which was a 4th. He was hurt. He's a corner as well. I think, Mel, you like him as a player. So that gets you up to date on San Diego. You're not going to hear from him until the 5th round, but you will hear from him if you're flying. Because next year, I think it's over 33,000 miles they fly. They go Tampa to Miami, to the East Coast twice, to London to play against the Saints. They'll be literally on the move, as they were this year, on the move on the gridiron. Figured that was our shot. Seattle Seahawks are up next. We'll be back.
Execute backstage pass.
In an earlier trade from the Kansas City Chiefs, the New England Patriots traded the 7th pick. The Detroit Lions have traded their choice in a trade from the Houston Texans, with the 18th pick in a trade with the Philadelphia Eagles, in a trade from the Houston Texans.
With a dozen of these, you could rule the world. I'm not going to let that happen. My turn. Iron Man. Rated PG-13.
Cinesnacks and lattes. Now at Sonic. All the gooey goodness of a cinnamon roll in a warm, bite-sized snack, served with icing, and perfect anytime with a premium roast mocha, caramel, or hazelnut iced or hot latte. It's not just good, it's Sonic good.
Who could that be? Oh, wow. I'm there for you, buddy. That was Brad. He really wants to vent.
You should go.
Ready to vent? Let's vent. Let's vent.
Let's vent. Introducing the vented wide mouth can from Coors Light. It lets in air for a smooth, refreshing pour.
Is he okay?
I think we'll be venting a little longer.
Frost brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer.
The road to the finals continues tonight with a doubleheader on ESPN. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen lead the dominating Celtics into Atlanta, looking to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks. That'll wake the crowd up. Then at 10:30, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets can level their series with the Jazz in a pivotal Game 4. The NBA playoffs, Celtics Hawks, and Rockets Jazz, tonight on ESPN.
A J.G. Wentworth success story.
A few years ago, I inherited an annuity from my grandfather. I started receiving monthly payments from his insurance company.
Recently, Felicia's employer moved to another state, and she was left out of work with lots of bills to pay.
I heard about J.G. Wentworth through TV ads.
I told Felicia that they help thousands of annuity holders get their cash now.
And they made it really easy.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call 866-447-0916.
All right, welcome back to New York. And now let's take a look at the best available, presented by Hummer. And we're getting toward the time when our quarterbacks, Chad Henne and Brian Brom, will go. They know late 1, early 2. They're not surprised. We've had 2 quarterbacks go. Flacco going to Baltimore. After much earlier in the day, Matt Ryan went to the Atlanta Falcons. So, Mel, your best available left.
I think when you look at it right now, but Dustin Keller would fit Seattle and what they want to do. I think you look at a team that needs a tight end that can catch the football. Now, blocking is suspect. Philip Merling, I think, is the best defensive end on the board. Devin Thomas, that wide receiver group we said wasn't that strong, but he's a good football player, potentially with a little more experience. And, of course, Kentwan Balmer, a defensive tackle, a one-year wonder at North Carolina, figures as more of a late first-round pick.
All right, so now the Seahawks move down 3 to pick up a 5 and a 7, and Dallas is line at 28.
In a trade from the Dallas Cowboys, with the 28th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Seattle Seahawks select Lawrence Jackson, defensive end, USC.
I'm a little surprised. I thought a tight end might help in Mike Holmgren's final year as head coach of the Seahawks. Key, you got 4 players drafted from the Trojans. Bill?
Well, if you look at Lawrence Jackson, and I was surprised. You have Devin Thomas, wide receiver, Philip Merling, defensive end, Clemson. Granted, he had that sports hernia, but everybody said he's fine moving forward. I thought Merling was a better overall player than Lawrence Jackson. Now, he had 4 sacks as a junior only. Did come on in that regard this past season. 10.5 sacks, 17 stops behind the line of scrimmage. So his pass rush skills late in his career improved. 31 reps, strong kid. Doesn't always play as strong as you would want, but I thought against the run, he did a pretty good job this year overall. What you want to see him do in the NFL is see if he can develop it. He hasn't shown it yet. Is that mean streak, that nasty streak you need to be effective in the NFL. I graded out as a C because they passed on some other players that could have helped at a variety of positions. Wide receiver with Thomas, tight end with Keller, and I thought there was a better defensive end on the board like a Philip Merling. So Jackson was in that late 1, early 2 range, boom. But yeah, like I said, I had a couple guys rated ahead of one guy in particular, Philip Merling, the defensive end from Clemson.
Well, you know, Mel, they've had some success with some former SC guys like Losa Tatufu. They're excited about Jackson. I know that for a fact. But this is a copycat league. They had an opportunity to see exactly what the New York Giants did in this Super Bowl and getting after the quarterback. So they say, hey, you know what? We're going to make a run at this thing. We're going to shore up our defensive front, and we're going to go get the quarterback, Steve.
You know, quarterback position in this offense, a tight end who can be 3rd and 8. And you want to run this division some more? Yeah, it's fine. You can rush the quarterback all you want. But a tight end in this offense is critical. And to have a kid like that, maybe they can move up later and get that tight end too. I won't say that hadn't happened. I thought that was the spot for it. But hey, rush the quarterback all you want. It's fine.
Well, and now, Steve, like days of yore, late in the first round, very late, San Francisco 49ers.
Hey, look, hey, Chris.
That's the only.
Very late.
Also, there was
first
a
round,
defensive
Steve.
coordinator
Now,
waiting in the wings.
Hey, look, here you go.
Defensive coordinator waiting in the wings too now.
That's the only thing that seems like the olden days.
And now we're on to the 49ers.
Is that we're drafting
picking late in the first round. Now, we must say it's the Colts pick. The Niners normally would have been a lot earlier, like at the first hour at the San Francisco 49ers, who, boy,
well, it's got to be
Willis last year was a brilliant
It's
pick.
got to be a corner, you know, Brandon Flowers or wide receiver Devin Thomas, Sweet, someone to help a quarterback or a corner is really the.
With the 29th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Kentwan Balmer, defensive tackle, North Carolina.
Now, I get this. I get it. Steve, hold on. I get it. He's a nose. He's a big nose tackle. To play him what's going to be a 3-4. Remember, they lost to, well, your teammate Bryant Young retired after a beautiful career. If they're going to play a 3-4, big kid.
I thought Pittsburgh would have an interest, boom, for this reason. They're a 3-4 team, but it's the San Francisco 49ers, also a 3-4 team. I think he can play that defensive end spot in this system. You added Justin Smith coming over from Cincinnati, so I think for this particular team, he was the 3rd highest-rated defensive tackle available behind Glenn Dorsey and Sedrick Ellis. Didn't have nearly that high a grade, even though he was the 3rd highest-rated defensive tackle, ahead of Marcus Harrison from Arkansas and Dre Moore out of Maryland. So here's a kid coached up this year by John Blake. John Blake made Adam Carricker, I believe, a first-round pick last year. He did the same thing for Kentwan Balmer this year. Had coached in Nebraska, moved to North Carolina with Butch Davis, and he coached up Balmer to the point where he became a much more productive player this season than he was as a junior when he was kind of way down. I put him in August in the top 25. People said, where did he come from? But it's John Blake's coaching ability. I think one of the best defensive line coaches at any level that did a great job with Kentwan Balmer.
Well, look, to Steve's point, I know you're going to make it. Here's an offense that was anemic, and they weren't.
Well, no, that last is not last. If there was 50 teams, they would have been 50th. So I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Point, let's at least get
there's last.
Defense, right?
The reason why this is happening is, you know, the head coach is a defensive coach, and he sees a semblance of a top-line NFL defense that's coming around. And if he can make this a top-line defense, then you go the Baltimore Ravens way. Look, we're not going to be a good offense. It's going to be a long time before we're a good offense. Let me make a crushing defense. I'm going to stockpile first-round draft choices over there, and I'm going to make it a top 5 defense that gives me a chance to win that 13-10 football game, and maybe I can sneak into the playoffs. And he has to do it this year. There's a lot of pressure in San Francisco to make something happen. How do I make it happen? Make this defense is close. make that defense a crushing defense, because you're not going to make a change in offense in the first round here that's going to make a big difference.
Let's speak to the wisdom of Bill Polian, the Colts general manager, and Tony Dungy, their coach. They traded this pick last year.
Yep.
Because they had to move up in the second round to get him a left tackle, Tony Hugo of Arkansas. And you saw all the runs on offensive linemen. They would have all been gone if the Colts were looking for him this year. Big-time move by Bill Polian. Once again, he did it right.
And they didn't even know that they were going to need Hugo to start at left tackle when they made this trip. And boy, did they have the right guy. So, San Francisco is picked. The Jets have traded up to Green Bay, slot at number 30. All the Jet fans screaming, we'll be back.
ESPN Radio. You know us, we know sports.
You can sign and drive a 2008 midsize H3 with zero due at signing. Tax, title, license, and dealer fees extra.
The kids have been wanting to go to the safari theme park since last summer. So we used our City Cash returns card to buy the tickets and stuff. It was great to get close to the animals. But not that close. Luckily, we used the cash we got back to help pay for some body work.
With your City Cash returns card, earn unlimited cash back and get it mailed to you automatically. Whatever your story is, your City Cash returns card can help you write it.
Sure, $1 down again. Oh, it's brutal.
No, it's feeble.
It's dropping like a lead balloon. Tanking. It's anemic.
It's just in free fall.
It's pathetic.
Hey, big O, what do you got there, fella?
Double cheeseburger from the dollar menu.
Did I say weak? Dollar's looking strong. Dollar's looking good.
Very good.
Hey, Owen, how you fixed on fries, buddy?
I'm good on fries. Thanks, Dave.
That's cold, man. Just thought I'd ask.
The McDonald's Beefy Cheesy Double Cheeseburger. Just one of the extravagant choices on the dollar menu.
With every kiss, with every step, love grows. The Journey 7-Diamond Necklace from Kay Jewelers. Multiple diamonds arranged from smallest to largest to symbolize how love has grown.
Every kiss begins with K.
Snickers. Sound a feasting horn. The feast. It's ruined.
ESPN's coverage of the 2008 NFL Draft is brought to you by Hummer, like nothing else. Citi, whatever your story is, your Citi card can help you write it. Citi, let's get it done. And McDonald's.
So, back in New York, the Jet fans are back on their feet, and they're chanting for the wide receiver, Devin Thomas. Maybe some are chanting for a quarterback. I don't know. No wide receivers gone yet. Key. The Packers get the Jets' second-round pick, which is just a few picks down, and pick up a 4 in exchange for their first-round pick, which enables the Jets to pick here at number 30. Now, the running backs you would think are gone, Mel, wouldn't you? However, there's Devin Thomas, wide receiver. Is this the chance? Or is it a chance for QB?
Well, Ray Rice is out there running back Rutgers. He was right there with Chris Johnson, who already went out of East Carolina a little earlier. When you talk about going to Tennessee. So I think when you look at Devin Thomas, Ray Rice, Chad Henne, and Brian Brown, but 2 years ago in the 06 draft in the second round, the Jets took Kellen Clemens out of Oregon. You have Chad Pennington. You need the heir apparent. You take a quarterback now, you have completely moved on and put Kellen Clemens behind and say, okay, we made a mistake, you admit it, and now you're taking another young quarterback. This is an indictment on Kellen Clemens.
And that would be early.
Well, the fact,
played 8 games.
The fact that they had said that Chad Pennington gets to compete for this job tells you they're not quite sold on Kellen Clemens. So, you know, usually now, remember last year the Jets moved up twice to get Darrelle Revis and David Harris, and both those guys were instant players. Usually when they move up, it's to go get somebody that can help them. But certainly Chad Henne is a guy strong arm who can throw the ball in Giant State. Tough place to play there. Brian Braum is ready to play football in the National Football League.
If it's Chad Henne,
it could be receiver, corner.
Chad Henne in the first round. I mean, he's a tough, strong kid, but there's just no way that you need to reach up here to get Chad Henne. This has got to be a receiver. This has got to be a playmaker in the first round to move up.
Well, what about a tight end?
Or a tight end. Just give me a weapon to give these quarterbacks a chance. You want to judge Kellen Clemens after 2 years, 8 starts? Then give him somebody to throw the football to.
This is the same situation as the Tennessee Titans. They got to get a skill position here, whether it's a wide receiver or a tight end. And Devin Thomas will fit perfect in this offense, although they did just give $10 million to Lavernius Coles of guaranteed money, Mark.
Now we have Jets, then Giants here, so that's why the decibel level up.
Did I write Devin Thomas and Penn again?
This team has done a lot to rebound.
Yes.
They've done a lot this offseason to rebound from a very tough year. And like as I said, if they're moving up, it should be somebody they're moving up that thinks that or even this team right now. That's why when we talk quarterback, it's just talk right now. Usually when they move up, it's to get somebody that can help them down.
In this division, you're going to have to outscore the New England Patriots. They got a lot of weapons, and you're going to have to outscore them. So the one thing that you have to do, like you said, Steve, is get a skill position, a tight end or a wide receiver.
Brandon Flowers, I don't know. Tough one.
Here it is.
In a trade from the Green Bay Packers, with the 30th pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Dustin Keller, tight end, Purdue.
Well, now that'll help the quarterback. I mean, Dustin Keller, they don't really know him, but as far as a receiver, I had coaches tell me he can come in and play right now. And Kirk, you saw him in the Big Ten at Purdue. Obviously, as a receiver, some compare him to Dallas Clark in the initial year in the NFL, Kirk.
One thing, boom, about this guy is he is a Dallas Clark type. 4.5 speed, he can get up vertical. Everything you're looking for as far as a receiver as a tight end needs to improve his blocking, but this instantly gives the Jets a receiver who can get down the middle of a defense that's going to take the pressure off of those wide receivers and help the quarterbacks, whoever it eventually becomes. Whoever that quarterback will be, he will fall in love with Dustin Keller's ability. Like I said, not only can he get upfield, he's athletic and agile and has the ability to really feel the defense and make plays.
Hey, look, this goes to a team that, yes, they signed Mel Bubba Franks. They also have Chris Baker, but those aren't tight ends like this. This is a guy that moves down the field.
Well, that's the thing. He was a former wide receiver.
Yes.
Tight end, so you can move him around. Todd Heath moves out. They flex him out wide. So the traditional tight end, Dustin Keller, is not. He's not going to help you as an inline blocker at all. He's strictly a wide receiver, converted to tight end. His forte is, like Dallas Clark, catching the football, creating matchup advantages, and taking advantage of that 4.5 speed, that great athleticism, and those great hands. So Dustin Keller, they didn't get a wide receiver. They got a guy who's going to play like a wide receiver in that offense.
Well, I think Dallas Clark's giving the Patriots a hard time.
Well, no, it's not just Dallas Clark. It's that third receiver, whoever that inside receiver. What New England's done this year. It's that third guy that can get inside in zones, handle the linebackers, find open seams, and convert on third down and move the chains. I think it's a great
Seattle
pick.
would pick him. I understand Seattle had a small defense, as we saw, but the Jets just pushed the envelope, and now the Super Bowl champion New York Giants on the clock.
Hey, Scott, man. We're working on these nicknames.
All right.
We got a couple.
Okay.
The Parquet Possum. The Three Basketeers. Barrage Trois. It's French. Or we can go with the Three Amigos. What you think?
The Boston Three Party.
See, I like that. See, this man's a professional. Hey, Scott, thank you, man.
That's what I told him.
Let's go work on the other thing, man.
Coach! He took my last cold Coors Light.
That's when you're going to have a psychological letdown.
Coach, what do you think of this new vented wide-mouth can?
I'm very pleased that anything that might come out of it would be a positive thing.
Hey, Coach, in one word, what makes the vented can special?
Flow, F-L-O-W.
The new vented wide-mouth can. It lets in air for a smooth, refreshing pour.
Coach, it says here that too much hairspray makes your follicles dry and brittle.
That would be the big concern that I would have.
Yeah, well, it really should. Okay.
Welcome to Tuscany.
Ready to have a nice dinner?
Today we have the chef's favorites.
Alfredo's great, actually.
This is perfect.
I love it.
Excuse me, if I could have your attention, please.
I didn't do anything tonight. In fact, I didn't even cook.
Pizza Hut delivered the pasta.
I like it even more now.
Introducing new Tuscany pastas. Choose from 2 family-style recipes plus breadsticks for just $11.99. Now get pasta from Pizza Hut.
Welcome, former Space Shuttle Commander Rex Searforce.
Oh, thanks. It's great to be here.
You've orbited the Earth over 600 times, and the people loved that.
Yeah, I loved it too. But you guys hold the Guinness World Record for the best gas mileage around the world in a single trip. I'm curious, how did you do that?
Well, we do have more engineers than NASA.
No way.
Yes way.
No, I don't believe that.
I can prove it.
No way.
You're pooping a little space pants.
No.
I'm telling you the truth.
So he's going away with Avis. Again. He'll probably get the where-to GPS so he can find all his precious fancy coffees and driving ranges on his business trip. Fine. That's the way he wants it? Fine. Forget about him. You don't need him. Did he just look back? I think he looked back.
Where-to GPS can find anything from a driving range to a latte. Just one more reason Avis is your other car.
And now a storybook January for the New York Football Giants. And they are picking, remember New England forfeited number 31 pick. And so it's the Giants, the Super Bowl champs. Eli Manning and Tom Coughlin, big questions going in the season. Could they? No longer questions about either. And you talk about a guy, David Tyree, became the equal of Lynn Swann in a highlight reel with one play in the Super Bowl as they upended the New England Patriots in one of the biggest upsets in Super Bowl history.
Honestly, I know historically you can't say the Jets and the Colts, but just contextually, best coach ever, best quarterback ever, best team ever was on the line, and the Giants came up and that was one of the biggest upsets I've ever.
Well, that New York team, the Jets that beat the Colts, had a 4th-year professional quarterback that did it. That was Joe Namath. Eli Manning was his 4th year in the pros. He upended the Patriots. There was some symmetry.
You know what? And they went on, you forget, they went on the road to Tampa, they went on the road to Dallas, and their best playoff run in Green Bay in the 9 degrees below, where I think Eli Manning, in my mind, is the first time I watched him and said, there's a Pro Bowl quarterback. There is to me, a pro. He did more that game for me than any other game.
And that's I was going to say, he got really good in the second half of the season, the beginning of the season. A lot of us was ready to throw him under the bus and get rid of him and his head coach, and look what they're both getting ready to get extensions.
Okay, with the 31st pick in the 2008 NFL Draft, the Super Bowl champion New York Giants select Kenny Phillips, safety, Miami.
Safety Phillips.
I had it. There you go. They lost Jibro Wilson to the Raiders.
They need a free safety.
They did sign Sammy Knight, but this is you. Hey, they drafted Aaron Ross in the 1st round last year at corner. Here's the 1st-round safety.
Jeremy shot in Miami when he chose Miami. Jerry Reese, the GM, goes back to that Hurricane program. I had him 36. I had another safety, Tyrell Johnson, from Arkansas State, 30. I had Phillips as the 2nd highest rated safety. You would have thought going into this year, hey, if he comes out, he's going to be a top 10 to 15 pick based on how he played as a sophomore. He was outstanding that particular year in 06. 07, you had a coaching change. A couple players, Calais Campbell, defensive end, didn't play up to the level of his sophomore year. Neither did Kenny Phillips. You thought he'd be the next Ed Reed. He was not, but he does have good ball skills. He is a talented football player. What he needs to do is revert back to that sophomore form when he was a real playmaker and a difference maker in that secondary boom. So I think they're rolling the dice on a Miami Hurricane over a kid from Arkansas State and Tyrell Johnson, another very good free safety who shouldn't have to wait too much longer to hear his name called.
Well, you wonder what change we had this year in the draft overall? Well, there he is, Kenny Phillips. And that makes a lot of sense for the Giants. Last year, 6.5 hours. This year, 3.5 hours, by the way.
First round?
Yes. Fastest first round since 1990, which was also the only other year in which no wide receiver went in the first round. Key, there's something to it. No wide receivers, the draft moves. See?
Hey, I didn't have that problem.
I know. And now Miami is on the clock. Their war room to begin the second round. Last Tuesday, they made their pick with Jake Long. Now, is it Chad Henne? Is it Branden Albert? Or do they go with John Beck, who was last year in the second round BYU?
Well, I'm just looking on the TV and see Branden Albert on the phone. I don't know if that's his mom or Bill Parcells. I have no idea. You know, you think about Miami, they need so many things, and they got the tackle. Personally, seeing these receivers, yeah, we thought many wouldn't be in the first round, but there's some good receivers out there for Miami to pick. Who would think that Devin Thomas, we talked about 100 times already tonight, that he would be here for Miami?
It's a team with a lot of needs, and yes, even though they like John Beck, who was drafted in the second round last year by another regime, they worked hard evaluating Chad Henne of Michigan
But they
and
can't
Jeff
like
Brom
him too much more.
Jeff
Can't
Brom
like him
of
too much if you take a quarterback here.
I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying they did spend a lot of time evaluating.
This will tell us about how much they like or don't like John Beck.
I agree with that.
Well, you know, you always have to have two quarterbacks. Just because they drafted.
No, you don't. If you have a quarterback that's young, Key, and you believe in him, you do not bring competition in.
Yeah, but
always have to have two quarterbacks.
This is the time that Bill Parcells throws a wrench in the draft. I feel it. I don't know. I just do. I don't know with what.
Here, where's my phone? Let me call him and find out.
I just feel it.
Well, they need a receiver, Keyshawn, but then Parcells heard that you were ordering the extra big bucket of chicken and extra biscuit.
I know, Kentucky Fried Chicken down here, you're out.
You were out. That's what he heard. That's what Parcells heard.
And now Gene Washington, the former wide receiver Niners, into the league office making the second
With
round.
the first selection in the second round, Miami has selected defensive end Philip Merling from Clemson.
Curveball. No, he was a one in a lot of people's. He had a tough workout the other day, right, Melly? He's not, may not be ready to go full steam for a while, but he was a one. Didn't you think he could be a one?
I thought he should have gone where Lawrence Jackson did, some of the other guys who were going in the first round at various positions. I thought he would be a mid-first rounder, even an early first rounder at one point. Had that sports hernia surgery. He was 288 pounds in his workout. He will probably play at about 275, so a little bit out of shape. But once he gets into shape, he was a more complete player at Clemson, I believe, than Gaines Adams, who was the fourth pick overall to Tampa Bay. Now, he's not the pass rusher that Adams potentially could be and certainly was at Clemson. But this Philip Merling kid, complete football player, solid. And I think for a Bill Parcells in that scheme board, what do you got to do first?
Well, you're going to get after the quarterback, certainly. But, you know, he had the sports hernia operation he had the sports hernia in early March. He worked out this week for teams, and even though he didn't run the 40, he worked out extremely well. And I'm just wondering whether or not now the second round is when we start hearing more talk about Jason Taylor and whether or not he's going to get moved in a trade.
Well, like I said at the beginning of this entire draft, when he got Jake Long, Bill Parcells likes to build these football teams from the outside in. He got a guy to protect the quarterback. Now he's going to get a guy that can rush the passer, Steve, so watch out.
That's fine. You can rush all the passers you want. I like that. Look, I like the fundamentals of it. You just mentioned, I think John Beck lets out a sigh of relief. Hey, look, I'm going to be around here for a little while. I get my shot this year. I'm going to prove to Coach Parcells that I'm the guy. And so, you know, you said Miami could not go wrong here.
Philip Merling plays the run effectively. And in this scheme, that's what you got to occupy the line. It's a linebacker-driven defense. It will be ultimately for the Miami Dolphins. I think for Philip Merling, real good opportunity for this kid to solidify a defensive line down the road and help out once he gets back to 100%. Keep in mind, his sports hernia surgery, Mort, didn't affect players. Sean Springs had it. Heath Miller, when he came out of Virginia, the Pittsburgh Steelers also had it.
Well, in a way, he is a first rounder. It's a 32nd pick, remember, because we skipped it.
Is this a message to Jason Taylor?
Dancing with the Stars?
Is this like, you know how Bill is? And you go to, you know, is this a message? Because if he doesn't get the deal done.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Message.
Message sent.
Message sent.
I got a message. Let me go back one moment to the Super Bowl champion Giants. Jerry Reese took over for one of the most accomplished and respected GMs, Ernie Accorsi. And the Giants last year, look at this draft, especially later on. Aaron Ross, a corner, obviously paid dividends. Steve Smith came on late. Jay Alford had a big sack in the Super Bowl, the third pick. Zach Diassi was the long snapper for Brown University. Rookie made an impact. Kevin Boss, when Shockey got hurt, made an impact, certainly in December and January. And certainly Ahmad Bradshaw, one of their 7th-round picks, had over 200 yards rushing in the playoffs with their Thunder and Lightning. You talk about a good draft that nobody noticed. Jerry Reese did that last year. And so they've drafted Phillips. We'll be back with St. Louis's pick. And then it's Washington. And then we roll in the second round. Stay with us.
The road to the finals continues tonight with a doubleheader on ESPN. First at 8 Eastern, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Ray Allen lead the dominating Celtics into Atlanta, looking to take a 3-0 lead over the Hawks.
That'll wake the crowd up.
Then at 10:30, Tracy McGrady and the Rockets can level their series with the Jazz in a pivotal Game 4. The NBA playoffs, Celtics Hawks, and Rockets Jazz, tonight on ESPN.
Personal foul? Inactive activities on a glorious day. Huh? Let's get out there and play!
Sweet.
Ooh, freeze!
When do I get to be in? Uh-oh.
Hey, Reggie, frozen people can't talk. PLA. An hour a day.
I'm in. There are lots of great play ideas online, but don't stay too long.
You're right. We need a new TV. Just don't go overboard.
I want it all. I want it all. I want it all. And I want it now.
Text Chase for your credit card balance and decide what to spend in seconds.
It's perfect.
Real-time info matters. Chase what matters.
In the NFL Draft, a great player can be found in any round. Marion Barber, 4th round, number 109.
Up kid, somebody offensively that can't get it done.
Brian Westbrook, 3rd round, number 91.
This is one of my favorite guys here, the little running back from Villanova.
Tom Brady, 6th round, number 199.
Smart, experienced, accurate. It was a very catchable ball.
The draft matters. Go deep. The NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light, continues tonight at 8 on ESPN2.
A lot of people are like, aren't you too young to invest in the markets? And, A, don't worry about it. I mean, you don't know how old I am. And B, I use E-Trade, so check it. Click. I just bought stock. You just saw me buy stock. No big deal. I mean, if I can do it, you can do it. Whoa.
It's so easy. Trades from $6.99 to $9.99. There are 1,000 new accounts a day at E-Trade.
The Lenovo ThinkPad has a magnesium alloy roll gauge, making it one of the very strongest notebooks out there. We just wanted to remind you, we have brains, too. Protect your ideas. Lenovo ThinkPad, powered by Intel Centrino with vPro, ultra durability and performance.
Welcome back to the 2008 NFL Draft, presented by Coors Light.
And now here we go in the second round, and Keyshawn, it's over. It's all over. A wide receiver's been drafted, but not the one you might have thought. Donnie Avery to St. Louis with the 2nd pick in the second round, wide receiver, Houston.
He was able to run free, Boom. I think that's where in the NFL transitioning in terms of route running, dealing with cornerbacks that are in your face and will be physical. The same here after the catch in the open field against some competition. It wasn't exactly top drawer. Donnie Avery, 91 catches this past season, 56 the year before when Kevin Cobb was the quarterback at the University of Houston. Also returned kickoffs very effectively with the Cougars. Talk about a kid who ran 4.44 at the combine. I thought he was anywhere between the 10th, 12th, 13th best receiver in this draft, but there really wasn't that much difference in grade between Avery and the top guy. I will say this, the Washington Redskins, you talk about getting a good football player at a point in the draft, Mort, where you would have never expected, I don't think, a Devin Thomas to get into round 2, wide receiver out of Michigan State.
Oh, no question. Going back to Donnie Avery, think about the St. Louis Rams. Used to be a receiver-rich team. Isaac Bruce is gone. Torrey Holt not happy with his situation there. A little bit of rumblings there. And Drew Bennett, who they got last year, didn't really play that well. So receiver was a need.
Well, and then you just mentioned it, Devin Thomas, who many thought could go mid-first round. He's been selected by the Washington Redskins. And so I project him now in a West Coast-style offense that's going to be run now under Coach Jim Zorn.
The thing that I think was the risk-reward was the fact he was a one-year wonder. 6 career catches at one season. Exploded onto the scene in the Big Ten this past year with 79 catches. Now you go back to the Indiana game, 13 catches. Penn State, 7 catches. Pretty good corners on those teams, Tracy Porter and Justin King. You see how physical he is after the catch. Big at 6'1½", 215 pounds, a 4'4" guy. I think what hurt him a little bit, Boston College game, Champ Sports Bowl, he dropped some passes, okay? He's not going to go to All-Star games. He's an underclassman. That's the last time you saw him on the field. He didn't put his best foot forward. Had struggled catching the ball. He did have a good combine. The fact that he's a JUCO kid with only 1 year of production allows him, hey, the Redskins would have looked good taking him at 21. They took him in the early second round now.
Coming from East Lansing and then going to Washington, cold weather guy can catch footballs in that cold weather because in Washington, D.C., you get the same temperatures as you do in East Lansing. So it shouldn't affect his play at all.
And by the way, they say that Jason Campbell has been working every day, is coming along really well. Remember, he was hurt and Collins led them into the playoffs. So Devin Thomas now a Redskin. And now Kansas City has made a pick. And you talk about a team that's gotten 3 players with some names
Kansas
that we
City
know.
is the star of this draft.
They are.
I mean, Carl Peterson's got to be doing backflips down whatever the main drag in Kansas City is.
I will tell you what, A+ for Carl Peterson, Herm Edwards.
Yep.
Kansas City rebuilding. It's begun in a big way to get Glenn Dorsey, Branden Albert, and now another neat area, which is corner. Brandon Flowers, guys, would have been a guaranteed top 15 pick in the first round had he run better at the combine. Ran 4.58, then ran 4.56 individually. Second round, if you think back into history, all the great second-round corners that have come out because they didn't have the 4.4 speed, but they were instinctive and they had ball skills, and that's what plus he's tough. We compared him all along to Antoine Cason.
That's right.
This kid is a player. I'm surprised some other guys went ahead of him. All I can tell you is right now, you want the best draft so far? Oh, it's by far to Kansas City.
There's no question that it is. And Bill Kuharic is their vice president of player personnel. And I know this much. They felt this was going to be a crossroads draft for them.
Well, guess what?
Well, he had
for
the
them
crosses.
so far.
Guess what? They got the walk sign on the crossroads, that's for sure. Because as Green Bay is on the clock, we've all agreed that everything is up to date in Kansas City. The Packers, followed by the Falcons and the Ravens.
Atlanta has selected Brett Favre, quarterback, Southern Mississippi.
I put people in cars that don't yet exist. No other car company marries the virtual and physical worlds together like Ford. What we're doing allows us to literally see through the eyes of any driver.
Now let's do that same reach as a small female.